sometimes the owner feels that the capex is not the right way to approach towards it. If it's a cost, in that case, we also offer a opex models towards it. So we are fully geared up towards the industry and had been doing almost, as I said, almost 100 plus hotels we have delivered till now. A disadvantage with the one single vendor is this, is you have a dependency on a one single point. That's where I turn out to be the first one slide that we carry a guarantee with it, which is a legal document in that case. So one small step will ensure that you have a wonderful product portfolio in your products. You see, technology is rapidly changing. I saw, I think almost 10, 20 days back, we were discussing with one of the owners in that case, they are still on the analog communication. And they're upgrading the hotels to the analog communications. It's by default, within 2 or 3 years, they will need the revamp of it. But unfortunately, the finance becomes sometimes the challenge. They say, no, itna hi budget hai. We need to move ahead with that case. I think to understand the whole scenario and to create the different experiences will require a partner in that case who understands it. We are not saying we are the India's best in that case, but we are trying to achieve and moving forward towards that direction. So it can be subsidized by selecting a partner with a proven record or a strong contractual document. Owl is a solution partner. He is not something who creates the product portfolio for any hotels or the industry. So we have thought that we don't need the different product portfolios in this industry. Possibly what we need is an understanding of this industry and then see how we can migrate to the better future in that case in buildings. Own team from design, installation, commissioning, and the after-sale support. Very strong point in that case. One window product and solution for the entire ELP. Whosoever is dealing with the any hotel owner in that case will be a single person in terms of sale, single person in terms of execution, single person in terms of services. So you don't have to run, this guy understands the technology, this guy understands the Wi-Fi, this guy understands the security in that case. Some of the things here which can possibly, in this case, so service portfolio that we do, the entire ELB solutions from security, fire safety, IT, voice, AV, automation, and the energy management, and the customized solutions. Putting in a BMS will reduce your bills by 31%. Putting in a security or CCTV, a good security system in that place, will save you by almost 39% in the revenue loss. Fire is on the 29% of it. Client centricity is a business strategy rooted in our business philosophy. Our business is essentially a portfolio of people and clients rather than a portfolio of products. Usually I close with this. We keep our promises with the one another, no matter what. We keep our promises with the customer, no matter how. That's how it is. I think Howell can be your partner in this case. We had been working and we had been having a tremendous growth in terms of offering to the solutions to the customers. And we request you if we can synergize somewhere and then see how we can help you out in that case. Thank you once again for the day.
Thank you, Sayedji. Now let's talk briefly about Grohe, a global leader in sanitary fittings renowned for its innovation, quality, and sustainability. May I now invite Mr. Bobby Joseph, leader, India and Subcon, Lixil Water Technologies, representing our beloved brand Grohe. The stage is yours, sir.
Thank you, Shikha. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed speakers and attendees. A very warm welcome to the Hotelier GM Summit and ESG Excellence Award 2024. My name is Bobby Joseph and I represent Grohe. It gives me immense pleasure today to stand before each one of you representing our sub-brand Grohe to power this event. For the third consecutive year, it is truly an honor to address the stalwarts of the hospitality industry. Let me quickly introduce Grohe to you. A global leader, Grohe has been closely associated with the hospitality industry. Our products adorn some of the most stunning spaces across the world while staying true to our sustainability roots. This edition with Hotelier is a meaningful as we celebrate our enduring partnership and shared vision and along with our mission to champion sustainability in the hospitality sector and beyond. We created this forum to share insights and celebrate our unwavering commitment to ESG in hospitality. In Grohe, we don't just recognize this need, but we embrace it. We are committed to embedding sustainability into every innovation we create, from faucets to showers. Our cutting-edge technology reduces water and energy consumption without compromising on its quality. Imagine a shower that uses 50% less water while still offering an incredible experience. Tonight, we will dive into enlightening sessions and celebrate achievements in creating a sustainable future. At Grohe, sustainability isn't just a buzzword. It's ingrained in our very DNA. Alongside technology, quality, and design, sustainability stands as one of our core brand pillars. Over the past 20 years, we at Grohe have learned that true sustainability starts from ground up. We embraced environmental responsibility to do our mission, and it is to conserve this precious resource in all its forms. Today, the world faces a magnitude of climate change. Billions of people worry about having access to clean water. The 2018 UN report clearly stated that by 2050, 6 billion people will be deprived of clean water, a future we are scared to imagine. And addressing this grave challenge requires a collective effort from industry leaders like yourself and manufacturers like us. At Grohe, we imagine a world where every drop is used, every faucet crafted leaves a positive ripple effect. Our factories boast of being carbon neutral. Our products wear a badge of honor with the EPD certification. Our waste recycling rates are 99%, owing to our circular economy model. As mentioned earlier, we need to start building ground up. Since 2020, all our manufacturing plants across the world, be it from Germany to Portugal to Thailand to China to Vietnam, have achieved CO2 neutral status. Our commitment to sustainability extends to conserving materials, resources, and energy at every step. From faucets to thermostats and showers, nearly all our products are designed with water and resource-saving technologies, ensuring ease of convenience. Use of technology helps us to save every drop of water and abundant energy resources. Moreover, Grohe has steadily moved towards a circular economy over the years. We have transformed our products, processes to create a sustainable solution, and our commitment to social responsibility drives us to partner with diverse organizations. Let us now take a look at Grohe's leadership in sustainability and social responsibility, showcasing our commitment towards ESG initiatives. Can we have the AV, please?
One company cannot save a planet, and we have no planet B. We have a planet, and we need to make sure that that planet is working. The sustainability cannot be a parallel agenda topic. The sustainability needs to be integrated in your business plan, in your DNA of your company. If not, it will never be prioritized. We are, despite the macro environment, we need to stick to our sustainability targets and the sustainability as a part of our DNA in the company to make sure that we don't compromise. The day you compromise, you lose.
Grohe's brand values are quality, technology, sustainability, and design. We are basically a leading global manufacturer, manufacturing complete bathroom solutions, faucets, toilets, bathtubs, everything what you need to have a full bathing experience.
as well as having things in showers like restrictors that can, let's say, change the shower flow from 10 liters per minute to 5 liters, we've actually challenged ourselves to go, much, much further and look at this concept of eco-joy. And it would seem paradoxical, but we call it ecological enjoyment. And that's our challenge. How can we produce products which are more ecological? But actually, how can we also ensure that consumers aren't giving up a great experience and have to make that choices? So we have things in showers like that. We have dimmers in showers where you can actually have a wider spray, and then you can reduce that spray for rinsing your hair.
Since 2014, Grohe is part of the Lixil family and therefore has based the sustainability strategy on Lixil's sustainability goals, which are focused on global sanitation and hygiene, water consumption, sustainable environment, and diversity and inclusion. The sustainability goals of Lixil and Grohe have one thing in common. They are both linked to the sustainability goals of the United Nations. Grohe is focusing mainly on managing of water and global climate change. The Grohe Goes Zero strategy, we have, for example, implemented in our factories combined heat and power plants. We have implemented solar roofs on all the factories. We have implemented clever lighting and green energy within the factories. And all these small different measurements at the end got us closer to the target to be completely carbon free.
We as an industry leader, we have the time to do it, and we can also invest in long term around the sustainability topic.
Achieving our goal, Grohe Goes Zero, was only possible because the whole team, the whole company has a doer mentality. We don't talk too much, we basically implement.
We need to come together to make sure that we can generate a better world, but it's also that everybody needs to take that responsibility, and we need to make sure that we are working with this solution cross countries and also cross companies.
With our stronghold on sustainability, we believe together we can make an impact in the ever-changing landscape of the hospitality industry. More importantly, in the Indian hospitality sector. Here at Grohe, we've been champions of this ethos over years. So let's inspire each other and work towards a sustainable future where it's not just a choice, but a way of life. A huge thank you to the Hotelier for their initiative, and thrilled to be part of this journey with all of you. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Bobby, for such an informative insight from Grohe. Moving on to the next, one of the biggest contributors to the Hotelier India ESG Awards is our distinguished jury that comprises our first panel along with two more leaders in sustainability. ESG, the journey from a peripheral identity to a mainstream future, is the topic of the panel discussion. Moderated by Abhijit Paul Zakaria, Principal ESG at LTI Mindtree. Abhijit has spent over 20 years working in areas closely linked with wildlife conservation, ecotourism, business sustainability, and philanthropy. He currently drives corporate ESG strategy and philanthropic intervention at the LTI Mindtree. This discussion features insights on ESG and hospitality. Please welcome our panelists. Ambika Gautam, founder partner The People Network. An impassioned advocate for a green future, Ambika not only champions the vision of ESG as a part of the People Network CSR activities, But more significantly, she spearheads critical leadership hirings, seamlessly integrating ESG principles into ownership policies and practices. Our next panelist, Mr. Anshul Gupta, founder and CEO of Quick Clean. A visionary entrepreneur and seasoned speaker, Anshul has transformed the cleaning industry with innovative and sustainable solutions, leading his company to global market leadership. Niranjan Khatri, founder iSambhav. A pioneer in sustainable development, Mr. Khatri transformed ITC hotels into green leaders, launched iSambhav to promote SD capacity building, and heads the SCGJ Center of Excellence driving green economy initiatives in education. Mr. Sriram Kuchimanchi, founder and CEO, Smarter Dharma. A sustainable expert and USGBC lead GA certified professional, Sriram has driven impactful climate change innovations and policy initiatives across the US and India, honored by the Ashoka Fellowship and Autodesk Social Entrepreneur Support. May we all have the panelists on stage, please? Please give them a huge round of applause. Over to you, Abhijit.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm really glad to be here with this wonderful audience from the hotel industry. Thank you to the partners, JW Marriott and Hotelier India. Especially, I think this is one of those rare occasions where I have seen ESG addressed so seriously in the hotel industry. So I think that's a real welcome change. I know all of you are doing a lot of work, but to actually have deliberations and thought triggering conversations on this, I think it's the first in a long time. This panel, we have our GMs here, we have founders, we have other industry leaders who are going to talk to you about the technicalities, the kind of specific initiatives that they do in their hotels, in the chains that they run. But here we're trying to address the larger trends in the industry, in ESG, specific to the hotel industry, but also apply to the larger kind of ecosystem, right, in which ESG operates. And here, we have a wonderful diversity of panelists. You must have seen from their, from the introductions. But here, what we'll try to do is through this next set of questions, we'll kind of try to learn from their lived experience in the way that through their careers and their specific domains, they've interacted with ESG, but also through some of us who have been jury members, right? We have gone through dozens and dozens of submissions which were from socially responsible, environmentally responsible, and also governance, right? And with mid-scale, upscale, standalone, budget, there are various, a huge spectrum of properties. So that's the context. And hopefully, we'll have something new to learn here and trigger some thought. So I'll start with you, Niranjan. So the question is, there are multiple drivers that are forcing, not forcing or pushing ESG into the mainstream, right? From something that's peripheral. And that's, I think, that's exactly what our session says. Now, what are these drivers? It could be customer perception, it could be regulatory pressure, it could be compliance. There are many things that drive this. It could be peer benchmarking and peer performance, right? Peer pressure. that drives many people to do things, right? So what do you think in your experience are these key drivers? And maybe you can set some context here also.
I'll tell you a personal story about myself. I had a very terrible disease in 1988. I was suffering with ecological poverty. And I was posted in the islands, remote islands called Port Blair. It was considered hardship posting there, but there learned sustainable development very holistically in the bliss of a small pond in geographical isolation. And to answer your question, Vivek, the key driver today is the regulation, the short answer. And I would like to set a context of what the larger scenario is so that you understand what each speaker is trying to say and why they're giving radical ideas which have not been thought of in the past. Pertaining to India, India has 18% of the global population, 4% of the land mass, 2% of the forest resources, and 1% of water resources. And we have 300 million cattle, which generate 1.3 billion tons of cow manure. Dry weight is 500 million tons. Now, these are challenges and there are opportunities over there, which we need to see. And the opportunities are there in terms of we are a sun-drenched country, but we have not leveraged it fully, though it's happening now. And we have a great potential for generating biogas, which is also in a very nascent stage. And why am I talking about biogas to this industry? Because you have linkages with the farming sector, and we need to see how we reach out to our supply chain and help them to grow on these opportunities so that they have a better life out there. So with this brief introduction, I'll hand it back over to you, Abhishek.
Sure. Why don't you go next, Ambika?
Okay.
Yeah.
So in my viewpoint, for all the assessments that we did, one of the most prominent point was the focus on social responsibility. So there is a growing focus on community engagement, diversity and inclusivity initiatives, local hiring and sourcing, cultivating local economies, driving local businesses. So we did observe, a lot of focus on social responsibility, which in a way also adds to the enhanced brand value of the hotels that are practicing it effectively. And I think the second point that drives ESG as a mainstream would be investor demand and access to capital. So, a lot of investors are now considering ESG factors in their investment decisions, and hence the hospitality companies are prioritizing their ESG initiatives to source better investments. And definitely, I think, there is research to prove that the hotels that perform good in their ESG performance metrics, have access to great capital at lower borrowing costs. So yes, I think social responsibility and access to capital would be two key trends.
So we've seen investor pressure, we've seen social responsibility, we've talked about compliance. Anshul, and then to you, Sriram, do you concur with that, or do you think there are other factors that are still driving this? Right? Yeah.
So I think, Ambika rightly said, it's not about investor pressure, but it's the cheaper capital. So now if you look at, seriously, if they're owning companies, if you look at, if they're trying to raise funds, the impact fund will specifically invest if you're ESG certified, if your goals are ESG aligned, right? And it's really cheaper capital to attract. I don't think it's an investor pressure, or still, if you talk about India, governance is still far off. There are only 1,000-odd companies which are listed are required to report the ESG numbers. So I think primarily what is driving in hospitality would be the cheaper capital.
So not just to differ, but I actually feel there's a very critical point, which I think there's data past 2020 that there's been a 160% increase in Google search for eco hotel or green hotel, right? I'm sure all of you have data from your marketing and sales team. It is there. Customers are asking. There is the thing I would throw back is, do you want to be a leader in that sense, want to get on that bandwagon and be ahead of the curve, or because others are doing, you have to follow, right? That's the thing. And that is driven by the customer. I think investors are pushing it, or cheaper capital, which is true, which is there. These are all ultimately, to me, tools. Capital is only a tool, right, to make it happen. If you are seeing your customers asking and you're happy with what a customer is asking, some of the very sustainable hotels in the country are actually much older than ESG, as it, like he's saying stories of 89, 90, way before ESG was even thrown out, or even climate change term was used, right? Customer perception has changed quite a bit. And the newer hoteliers are now coming and talking about, I want to do the right thing. I've heard our own clients coming and saying, I want to do the right thing, which is a big thing. Right? I think that is going to drive more and capital, because my theory, and I might be an outlaw here in this by saying this, but I think if you go by the capital route of saving money, all it takes is to find a better way to save more money, you'll run on that. Right? You got to run on this because you think it's the right thing to do. I think, and that's what customers are pushing you to.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will concur with that, and I think it's important to remember that though we use ESG as stomped on around a lot, it's essentially a framework. It is not sustainability is the mother load, right? And ESG is a framework for you, for companies to be able to silo these three things, the E, S, and G, right? And then to deliver and have KPIs, set KPIs, and performance indicators and things like that based on this framework. So ESG in itself is not indicative of what needs to be done. So let me come to the next kind of question, and that is especially for Ambika, for you and Niranjan, because you were jury members, right? You've been through dozens of entries in the South across all these different categories of hotels. What are your key takeaways, insights, right? And those insights could either be about best practices, they could be about innovative leadership, it could even be about certain weaknesses and loopholes that you've kind of found, right? And certain trends, which could be negative or positives, right? So I mean, let's Niranjan, why don't you start? Let's hear from you. Yeah.
I went through close to about 180 applications in 2 tranches. And the commonality that I observed was that most hotels are still in the compliance mode. Rainwater harvesting, putting solar or putting organic waste converter is mandated by law. So I think we have to move beyond that. And there are very simple ways of doing that. And I'll share some examples with you. In terms of management, I think whether it's an individual hotel or a chain hotel, they must have a mission statement, and the large chains have it in place. But the individual hotels need to have a mission statement where they mention whatever they have to mention about the business, but also integrate that we'll take care of the environment. And that seems to be missing. And that's a management input that I'd like to give to all the participants out here. And there are very innovative ways of scaling up sustainability, not just through your hotels, because hotels are very lucky that the opinion makers and shapers, they come to our hotel, we shake hands with them in the lobby, and we become friends with them overnight. And how do we plant ideas in the minds of these policymakers so that we scale up a whole lot of ideas? And I recall I had a very severe water crisis in 1990 when our water supply was cut from 10,000 liters per day to 2,000 liters per day. And we took some very brutal actions and implemented all the right things which have withstood the litmus test of time, rainwater harvesting, dual piping, etc., etc. But we said this is not good enough that we are doing this. So we got into policy domain and pestered the government to make it mandatory so that every house, new or old, will harvest its own water. And today it's very important that we have to move away from a centralized system. The rules of the game has to change. And we need to decentralize on waste front. We have to decentralize on energy front and water front. And there's another area of opportunity, not just for this industry, but the IT industry also, that there's a very high attrition rate there. So when boys and girls are joining our industry, in the application form, we should integrate 2 more questions in the end. Mr. Khatri, have you done any work on environment front? Yes or no? Have you done any work on the social front? At the age of 19, if I'm wanting to join one of your hotels, I'll run back home and I'll tell my mama, Mama, I'm going to plant one guava sapling. Mama will wonder what has happened to my son, right? At least one tree has come up, right? On the social front, I'll ask Mama, what can I do? Mama will say, go and open a bank account for your domestic help. Many domestic help, they do not have bank account. Things have changed today thanks to no-frill bank account scheme that the government has started. But there are many such simple ideas which you can implement at home, and that leads to sensitization of children at a young age, as opposed to, having one foot in the grave like me and then learning, right? And on the leadership front, I think unless the leader also walks and talks this subject, people are not going to implement. They need to see that if some guest has come to Sri Ram, he's a general manager, and he asked the guest, he'll ask the guest, how much water do you want, small peg or large peg? Because he doesn't know the thirst quotient of the person. And yes, I'm sure you're laughing, but when you do the calculation, we call ourselves a water stressed country, but we waste 200 crore liters of unconsumed water every day. So can the industry collectively create a service design whereby it sets standards for the other countries? Because as a country, we have lived sustainability for 5,000 years. We have forgotten all this since 91 with the globalization. And we need to go back to the basics and ensure that we have sympathetic, or rather empathic service design, not just service design. Because on one hand, people in this city were struggling for water and we were wallowing in our swimming pool. So these are some of the inputs on management and processes and innovation.
Thanks. Ambika.
So I'll be quick. Three points that we observed. The two good ones were that the hotels or the hotel chains that have been able to integrate ESG principles completely into their business strategy, those are the ones that shone brilliantly, because they were the ones who had ESG not only in their mission, vision, but they also had it in their day-to-day operations. Those hotels were also the ones who have realized that embracing ESG principles have led to enhanced resilience, enhanced competitiveness in their evolving landscape. So integrating of ESG into your business strategy, that was one point that really came across in all the hotels that were successful. And I think here I would like to quote CGH Earth. Completely non-negotiable core values of respect towards environment, respect towards local community, adoption to the local ethos. Anything that they do, cultural preservation, sustainability initiatives, employee welfare, local community tying up, everything that they have done has come from the leadership and from the management. So that was one point that shone through. The second was that each of these successful hotels have set very measurable goals, specific goals, time-bound goals for the ESG strategies to be implemented in their hotels. So to be able to do that, that is when I think the leadership would be accountable for the ESG practices. So yes, setting up of clear, targeted, time-bound roles and goals for the ESG practices.
Yeah, great. And I think overall, we've seen a mix of, some might have been surface level, some were clearly passionate,
Correct,
but I think need to move
correct.
the needle. So from moving from incremental to transformation, I think so that's something that we see that there's a lot of potential, obviously, from the entries that we received. Moving on to the next question. This is Sriram for you and for Niranjan. Sriram, I'll start with you. So technology. And here I want to draw the distinction between innovation and technology, because innovation is something I want you to tackle that. That's seen as a lever, right? An enabler. It's not an end in itself. So the hotel industry in particular, and you work with a lot of solutions in real estate and also specifically for the hotel industry, whether it's IoT sensors, whether it's ESG dashboards, what you call sustainability as a service or SaaS platforms, right? How much do you think these things will play a role in the hotel industry, and how much value add do you think these kind of solutions or enablers will have, specifically?
And you're right. Hotel industry is closely tied with the real estate industry, and both have been laggards in technology adoption. I think technology adoption has been maybe in the sales and some certain services, but when it comes to sustainability, for some reason we don't. I want to tell one thing which Ambika raised as something she picked up from some of the applications, right? Which is they were setting goals. I think technology will play a heavy role if the goal setting is done, and there are quite a few solutions. Sustainability as a service is a topic now being spoken in the space. IoTs of the world IoT is already such a common thing now. If you're not using, is a surprise. People would use. One of the things we have noticed is most of the times, and now the tier 1 guys have some data, so they run by it, but non-data driven sustainability adoption has been happening. And that makes you focus on highly inefficient areas. Just a quick data point I'll say, and that's where technology can help, is lighting. We did a study, I'm sure everybody here knows, is 11 to 17% of your electricity footprint. HVAC on the other hand is anywhere between 65 to 71%. Now in the lighting 11 to 17%, 50% will be fancy lights you can't touch. The rest of the 50%, even if you move to LED, which has been one of the big things, any website, any random hotel, if you go see the website, there are two things they say they'll do. I moved from CFL to LED. I don't, ask my customers if I need to do laundry first day or not. These are the two across board everybody has, right? I mean, everybody is doing that now. But if you actually think about it, you're saving 4% in your energy footprint if you do that LED shift, as opposed to if you should save 10% on your HVAC, you're talking about 7%. That's just technology can help you identify hotspots better, and there are so many. In Bangalore, there are at least 10 startups I know we work with. We use their technology, which helps you identify. And the last thing on technology again is ESG goals. One of the goal is decarbonization. India has 2070 goal, which means every hotel has to contribute towards a 2040, 2045 goal. Some of the folks we work with have set their own goals. To achieve that goal, this understanding of scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, where does it come? That becomes critical. That goal setting, there is technology now. Tracking your emissions, there are technology platforms. For some reason, hotel industry spend more money on technology when it comes to sales and marketing, but when it comes to technology to help on sustainability, it's not. I'm here to tell you that there are such mature technologies that you will see value. It will pay itself off instantly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, I think there are multiple partners, service providers who are providing these services, right? And I think the hotel industry really needs to kind of get into the market and identify these people, to work with. Niranjan, quickly. So let's separating technology from innovation, right? And innovation it's not necessarily tech. There's innovation in strategy, innovation in processes. So from your lived experience and your interactions with this industry for so many years, could you kind of, if you have any anecdotes, if you have any, particular cases that you can kind of highlight and, on this?
I am a very miserly person. I love low investment and high returns. I don't like these guys who sell technologies to me, right? And there are so many low-hanging fruits in the hotels which you're not able to see. For instance, I cannot understand why 30 or 20 lights must come on to the room once you put the smart card in the room. It negates everything that you have done on energy efficiency. Why can't we have just 2 or 3 lights on during the evening check-in, but daytime, can you keep the curtains open? But having said this, opening curtains in hot Delhi will enhance your air conditioning load. So I'm not giving suggestions which are one size fit all, right? I've gone to hill stations, lovely view they have, but they shut it by putting huge, thick draping curtains. Why? And when you do a calculation of all this across the world, the savings will be in gigawatts, right? The other initiative that we started when I was in the system in ITC Hotel was we started something called greening of the supply chain. So I would visit Sriram's facility, he's one of my suppliers, and I'll shake hands with him with a velvet glove and an iron fist because he'll be very suspicious why I've come to see his facility. So I'll tell him, look, this is what we have done, and we are not clean if you are not clean, and therefore we'll help you to do that. And just taking a casual stroll in his facility, you'll find that the overhead tank is leaking, taps are leaking. Where there is access to daylight, they have put on 10 lights. And these are simple inputs. With this very cursory look, 10% savings was put in his pocket. And then I give him the telephone number of my engineers and my food safety experts, depending on which supplier I've gone to. I said, these are the guys who will give you more focused input. Learn from them. I was very happy that one of our big suppliers in one city, I won't name the city and the company, he was making sweetmeats for everybody, including the airlines. And he had 2 lakh flies in his factory. Now, when I went to see his factory, I said, hey, all you have to do is just put 2 mesh so that, 50,000 flies enter your complex. And then you put that, what is that light? I'm forgetting the name of that. It attracts the flies, ultraviolet rays. Put that, it costs 5,000 rupees. Can you do that? He said, sure. And then I gave inputs of putting exhaust fan and giving uniform to his staff. Then walked into his walk-in cooler. It's supposed to be 8 degrees. It was 15 degrees. I said, if a food inspector comes, you're dead. But he's not dead because he knows what to do with the food inspectors. And I told them that, look, if you are exporting, you have a great opportunity of working in this area because you have the wherewithal and bring about change. And he got inputs from our food safety experts in that location. In 2016, I was a jury for Economic Times for Green Building, and he saw my mugshot in the papers, and he called me up. He said, "Sir, you are in town. You are not meeting me." I said, "Look, I have just come for one day." No, I want you to come to my factory and see. I said, "I can't come." He said, "Can I come and see you?" I said, "Yes." He brought and he showed me the pictures of the plant which I had seen in 2004 and what he's done with the inputs that I give. The point that I'm trying to make is that owners are very receptive if you hold their hand and give them the right inputs. Thank you.
Thanks, Niranjan. Anshul, you want to add a point there?
So, when Sriram mentioned, this play card next to your bed. So, in my last 10 years, I was almost traveling 20 days a month. So one fine meeting I went, it was, for a very big chain hotel. And we were there, competing for a laundry solution to be set up for the new property. It was almost a 250 keys property. And I stayed in the same hotel because they were trying to renovate it. And, I saw that play card and I was very happy. This means the hotel actually cares about sustainability. They cares about water saving. And then when I went for the meeting, I presented our solution and I said, I can help you save 60% water, which means on an average, just to give you some numbers, on an average in the industry, to wash 1 kg of linen, hotels spend 18 to 20 liters of water. And I said, I can bring it down to 9 liters per kg, right? But at the end of the day, purchase guys, they said, you will not get the order. You're pretty expensive. The capex is pretty high, and that's where I was pretty surprised, I mean, we all talk about a guest who's paying almost 10,000 rupees a room night or a 15,000 room night, to be sustainable and not change the linen. But when it is coming to decision making, when you can actually choose solutions which can reduce water consumption at the inception, right? That's where this doesn't happen. But then when I actually quantified it in terms of cost, fortunately for that property, the cost per kiloliter was almost 250 rupees. And when I converted that water saving into measurable money saving, and that's where we got the solution. So that's where when I mentioned, it's not about perception, it's actually about money. If you can actually convert sustainability to savings, if sustainability can be profitable, it has the adoption.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
From an outsider's point of view, yes, correct.
No, absolutely. I think so. ROI is every CFO and every organization. I mean, the first thing when you want to get any sustainability initiatives passed, I mean, you'll have to get past him first. And ROI is the first thing they're going to ask. Some are ROI based and some are no regret decisions, which also I think, it's not everything is ROI based. There are some no regret decisions that you do have to take, right? In the, larger, for the larger cause. Now, quickly, I know we'll run short of time, so I'm going to combine two questions, and this is on the S of ESG, right? Because I think all of us here, and this is not a problem in this industry, it's outside also, we're all focused on environment and just environment, energy, renewable energy, water, waste, and that's it, right? There's barely any focus on the other two aspects. And in social, we have two. One which is within the organization, and Ambika will come to that. And the second is what impact, there's a limit, there's a threshold to how much you can do on energy, waste, and water, right? But you don't live in a vacuum, right? There's a larger operating context. All the hotels here need to have a social license to operate also. So how do you have impact in your extended value chain, in your supply chain? Key stakeholders in the supply chain could be farmers, could be fishermen, could be construction labor. There's so many people in that supply chain. So Niranjan, to you first, and then Ambika, you can club that with the question on working on social initiative internally. I'll come to that. But how do you think hotel industries can move beyond their premises, right? And look at beyond value chain mitigation?
My mouth is salivating. I see so many partners in this room. And the simple input that I like to give you is that start a bank of nutrition in rural India, because 75% of the people in this country are malnourished. Government of India cannot do everything. So in 2016, an NGO invited me to Koppal district in Karnataka, hot as hell. And I found that there was a lot of malnutrition there. I said, look, why don't you start something called Bank of Nutrition? He said, what is that? I said, look, I've noticed that you have a nursery. Why don't you keep moringa, papaya, guava, lime, amla, and banana saplings out there? And Sriram is a poor guy out there, poor Sriram. Okay. He's given 5 or 6 of these saplings, and he and his wife grow this. and the fruits go to them. And these are superfoods, and it doesn't cost much, right? They nurture it. And so you're not only taking care of their malnutrition problem, but there are co-benefits of this, because the birds and the bees come back and they cross-pollinate and the green cover will increase, right? And these are invisible things that people don't notice, and we need to do that. The second initiative I started was in 2022, because water is a big problem. And those of you who are from Bangalore got a feel of that water shortage. Some of you are living in gated colonies where you get only 1 hour of water. Your house costs 3 crores and you're getting only 1 hour of water, right? And the problem is still not solved just because we have had 7 rains, and it's business as usual for most people now. That's the unfortunate thing about water. So we said we need to ensure that the farmers are successful, they should not die, and let's create a proof of concept. So we went to Tumkuru district, which is a water-stressed district, and we convinced 2 marginalized farmers. The definition of a marginalized farmer is he or she owns 1.5 acres of land. So they had to give 5% of the land to make a pond. And through an NGO whom I'm working with, we raised 20,000 rupees for the JCB and the work that is involved in that. And 2 ponds were made, and all the neighboring farmers laughed. Ha, ha, ha. It doesn't rain over here. These foolish fellows are making a pond. 2 days later, it rained so heavily there that within 2 days, that pond filled up. And that opened the eyes of the farmers. 38 more farmers made a pond the same year. And as we speak today, 100 ponds are there. This is it's neither here or there. It's a very nano initiative. It's a proof of concept. So now it's moving on its own. So these are the things which you can do through your supply chain. I don't expect the general manager of your manager to go to the village and do it. No, if I'm your supplier and if I have certain linkages, plant these ideas in them. Yes, while talking about planting ideas in the mindset is the most difficult terrain. So if you give the idea today, the idea might germinate after 2 years and then fructify after 3 years. But start now. So these are some of the simple things I can do. I can go on, but then he'll give me a dirty look.
Yeah. Thanks, Ranjan. I mean, wonderful insights. And I think that's something that, companies really, organizations, hotel industry really needs to look at seriously, right? Ambika, could you address the same question? But also I'll club this with the second part of social, which is within the organization, right? And that focuses on, I mean, I don't want to use the word just DEI, but there are multiple facets to that. We're talking about women in leadership. We're talking about women in the workforce. We're talking about pay parity, right? We're talking about how do you treat contracted labor or casual labor, right? So there are multiple issues here. So if you could just kind of take on both.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think the very important aspect for the S of ESG would be commitment from the top leadership. So the leadership, the senior management should be able to publicly commit themselves to upholding the S of ESG. Believing in diversity, believing in pay parity, safety initiatives. So I think most important would be commitment from the top leadership towards the S. Second would be robust diversity and inclusivity practices. Where you have equal opportunities irrespective of gender, race, age, sexual orientation for all. And I think this is where the role of executive search firms like ours comes into play, that we our recruitment practices should actively seek out diverse candidates for the roles that we're working on. That is the foundation for doing any search. It should be that you are trying to present a pool that's diverse in all ways. And secondly, also work towards reducing any unconscious bias that comes to in their recruitment and selection process. So search firms can bring about a lot of effective diversity and inclusivity practices. Third, women in leadership. So definitely to have targeted programs that look at the sustainable growth of women in leadership positions. Ideally, there should be at least a woman on each decision-making table. But I think in that respect, what is important that we have regular audits to see that the women leadership paths, the career progression paths are on what we've projected and not digressed. Ideally, you do see that you make these career paths for women, and over the years they have just deviated. And I think I have a very real life experience here. Out of the 2 firms that I'm part of, the People Network and the Job Class, we have one male founder, Natwar, he's here. And we have two co-founders who are females. So it's Anupama and me, who are the two co-founders. And not only that, I mean, for both the startups, the strategic teams are mostly led by women. We have Swati also here. So we are, I mean, you know, between the two startups, we are a women-led team. So yeah, I mean, you know, thank you, Natva, for trusting in us to do this. But I think this is what we need to do for, you know, for effective representation of women in leadership positions.
Right.
Also, another important aspect, specifically in the hospitality industry for diversity, would be that taking it back to their supply chain and bringing in supplier diversity.
Correct.
So suppliers and contracts, you know, you're looking at diversity within that. That is important. And I think now diversity, we are at that stage where diversity of any kind, gender, age, race, is no longer about social justice. It is now essential for your business success. If we were together, you know, able to understand this, that the diverse workforce is bringing diverse perspectives, diverse skill sets, problem solving capabilities on board, we would together work towards creating a diverse workforce. So that is, you know, diversity is the hardest thing to live with, but perhaps the most dangerous not to have.
Not to have.
So yeah, I think
Fabulous
those,
points, Amrita.
yeah, those,
And I think so. This space is, you know, one request from all of us. I mean, this is a particularly undercooked, neglected space. You know, not just the hotel industry, with multiple industries. So I think there's a lot of work to do to kind of move the needle on the S board within the community and within the organization, within the hotel industry itself, within your premises and organizations. So I'll quickly move on. Sriram. You know, we'll try and keep this quick. I think we're almost out of time over the next 3-4 questions. But I think one, again, neglected piece. We talk about, you know, HVAC retrofits. We're looking at water saving mechanisms. We're looking at procurement of renewable energy. You know, multiple players working in, sustainability within the hotel industry. But what about circularity at the design stage, where currently there's aesthetics over function, there's form over function, there's form over sustainability, right? Now, how do you build that into the design, into the construction stage, right? And your interaction with the real estate industry, I mean, what insights, I mean, do you have on that?
I think it's a fantastic thing, right? And I think in India, we misunderstand the idea of circular economy. What we do in India is glorified waste management. So you take anything, right? This phone, for example. What I do end of the life of this phone is what we focus on, which is waste management.
Right.
But if true circular economy is what goes into making of this phone, such a way that at the end of its life, there is hardly any waste, is true circular economy. And towards that, I mean, I can give an example from your industry. It's funny, I'm just coming back today morning after 3 days in a hotel called CJ Church, a location called Coconut Lagoon. And it was, really, I should name them or what?
Good. Thank you.
So they, I love the idea that I'll tell you why I'm bringing it circular, right? So that location had its premises built from old buildings. So we work with real estate developers. We tell them that, can you start looking at a building as a material bank? Can you start saying this building is not a dead construction waste, but in its future, but it's actually a bank where I've put a lot of material, which when the time is right, I'm going to take out some, replace some. That's circular thinking. It's the same with pretty much everything, right? What is exciting to see is even 5-star hotels now have reusable bottles. That, to me, these are circular economy thinking. And it's not just technology. It's not just CGH example. Offbeat hotels are doing a lot of such things. I think mainstream hotels can pick them up. It's not difficult to scale this thought process. It's not difficult to make circular economy central. Is something I'm very passionate about. I'll again repeat what Ambika said at the beginning, the goal setting. If the goal has been set as a philosophy for me that I would do circular thinking, which is what I think CGH did. I'm coming fresh out of that experience of 3 days there. So they have their value system. I mean, which hotel gives you an eco tour and a naturalist taking you around, right? I think that shows that they had it in their values. It's not hey, we'll build a great hotel, we'll have a great business, and there's also sustainability.
Right.
I think that's the difference.
Yeah, thanks, Sriram. And I think this buzzword of circular economy, I think it all at some point, somewhere, this also needs to be supported by regulatory pressures, right? Changing in building codes, say certifications like LEED, which really need to, the benchmarks need to be much tighter.
So there's
right?
one thing there,
So,
right? Just on, because you said regulation. 30 seconds.
Yeah.
EPR. Have you heard of EPR?
Yes.
So extended producer responsibility is there in electronics in India. It is going to expand into other sectors also. It's better to embrace it sooner rather than keep chasing policy.
Right, correct. Okay, so I can see the clock ticking. We have 2.5 minutes. So this is Anshul for you and Niranjan. So I think both of you had made this point earlier. We were having these discussions that, I see this in the IT industry also. So we have all these board level, higher executive level ESG visions that are charted out: net zero, carbon neutral, women in leadership. I mean, we have multiple goals, right? And we often see that this somehow, there is a slip between the cup and the lip. This does not necessarily translate to people, the last man or woman at the operational level, right? Lower down that cascade, right? It doesn't cascade down. And that vision is left in that bubble of the sustainability team or the board, right? And who are charting out these wonderful visions. But we see that, operationally, that doesn't seem to have the kind of impact that it should, right? So I mean, I think you've some big key points to make on this. So I'd love to hear from you.
Okay. So we've been talking about ESG, right? Everywhere I can see ESG. So in a forum, I asked, what's ESG? And somebody said, everyone's silly goals. So if I want to throw this question, right? So tell me by raise of hands, what does E stands for? How many of us are like electricity? Anyone? No one? Okay. So anybody with the right answer, Sheetal is going to give a lot of goodie bags, right? So, okay. So E stands for energy. Anyone? Anyone? You can be alone also and be right. Yeah. Okay, environment. Third, is it environment? With a raise of hands, please. Okay. And what about others who have not raised hand? It's something else. Environmental. Okay. See, so we were talking about this. See, so what we've understood is, goal setting. Ambika said in starting, right? But what happens on execution level, right? Board meetings, strategical goals set. But at the ground level, the clear communication doesn't happen, right? We talk about ESG, sustainability, but can we convert it into actionable points so that the execution team, right? Engineers of the hotel, housekeepers, purchase managers, they understand their acts, their tasks, which can actually help achieve ESG goals. So I think that would be one, clear communication. Second would be allocating resources, right? Just imagine we can talk about our net zero goal and we don't allocate budget for it. How do you expect hotels to achieve that, right? It's not only about money. Allocating resources means allocating budget, allocating people, allocating time. If you have a KRA of a general manager, I understand CSAT is a very acceptable, a score for every general manager of the hotel, where if there's a one guest complaint which impacts my CSAT score, I mean, I'll do everything, right? What about having an ESG score, right? What about actually connecting the KRA's performance linked to ESG score? I don't think that's been happening in the industry. No. So if we can actually link the performance of the team, the chief engineer, housekeeper, purchase manager, I've seen chief engineers taking a lot of good initiatives to the purchase, right? But it gets thrown off. We don't have budget. We can't spend. Just imagine, there are dishwashers, just an example, a dishwasher typically consumes, let's say, 4 liters of water per rack. And there are technologies available where you can actually wash a rack with 1 glass of water. But obviously, it's not going to come at same price, right? A GM would approve it. An engineer will approve it. When it goes to purchase, he will say politely, can you match the price of the one which consumes 4 liters of water? Right. Is it possible? Never. And that's where the adoption takes a lot of time. So I think, at board level, when we set goals, it should be backed up with resources. Yeah. That's the second point, right? Yeah. And the last would be integrated performance indicator. Like I said, if you integrate in the KPIs of executives, right? Okay, you have a score. Where you do appraisals, you get performance bonus. If you integrate 30%, you get score from achieving your ESG target. And that's where you will see adoption.
Absolutely. And I think on that point, a lot of the industry, many organizations in multiple industries are moving towards that ESG linked compensation, where part of your variable pay, say 5% will be linked to your ESG goals and ESG linked performances, right? Whether it's procurement, different functions here for. So I think that's the next level kind of jump
We
that people
got
need
it
to
for
make.
a law firm.
Yeah.
In a law firm client of ours, we set KPIs for junior partners
Junior
and say
partners.
mid partners.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on this, I have a point. Since we've seen all the entries in the West region and South region, transparency in reporting is, I think, one area which is the most crucial.
Right.
But I think we've failed on that.
Yeah.
We've failed. There's absolutely no public reporting of any kind of ESG data.
Yeah.
There's no regulatory pressure in. So transparency in reporting is something that hospitality industry definitely is lacking.
Is
Yes.
lacking, and I think that's evident because we've got a handful of entries in the governance category, right? So that
Yes.
clearly shows that it's all E and S, mostly E, partly S, and almost no G. Right.
Correct,
So,
yeah.
so I think that's a clear indicator. And Niranjan, some final points on this, and then we move to the last question.
Everything is finite, including time. So I'll be very brief.
Yeah.
Sorry. Everything is finite, including time. So I'll be very brief. Alluding to what Anshul said and taking a cue from what he said, we need a short-term program called Sustainable Development for Non-Sustainable Managers, akin to finance for non-finance managers. There's a great need for that. And towards that direction, I think there's an Institute of Directors in Delhi. They have started a program for director-level people on ESG, but the companies also should network with the Management Institute seeking for this program, because when I speak to the IMs in this country, they say, oh, but there's no demand for it. Why should we start it? I say, it's like saying that I want the train to come to my village, but if I don't lay the track, how will the train come there? Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, before I finish,
Yeah.
I think there's a very important social point which I did not cover in your section, right?
Please.
Many years back, we started an initiative for people with disabilities. And we found that there were no books on this subject. So we wrote 2 books on this subject, how to employ people with disabilities. No sympathy for them, only empathy. Because when you empathize, you do the right thing. When you sympathize, you shed crocodile tears. And along with employing them, you have to make the infrastructure barrier free. If you wrote this book also, and if you ask me for a copy of this, I won't give it to you, although I want to give it to you. Why? Ask me why. Why? Because it's there on the net. Please download it from the net. The point that I'm trying to make is that your CSR should be so cost effective that goes beyond your boundaries, political or geographical boundaries. We got a delegation which came from Philippines to understand how a 5-star chain had employed 300 people with disability, and we gave them these books and they were very happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Niranjan. So this is, our final, talking point discussion. So, I mean, given everything that we've discussed so far and our insights from the assessments for the jury also, if you're looking at the hotel industry moving from incremental change, is still in its nascency, ESG, sustainability, and moving from incremental to transformational, right? That leapfrogging. I think leapfrogging is important, right? We can't wait for our 2050 net zero goals. One is that I need quick responses, right? One is that you think the industry, how mature it is, your quick thought on that. And also any 2, 3, 5 key points for you to, for the industry to increase uptake of ESG goals and practices over the next few years. Yeah. So, Sriram, okay, yeah, start, Amita, please.
Okay, so I'll be quick. First, building ESG into your overall business strategy. Second, ESG training and capacity building in terms of having a board that is diverse. So board diversity and ESG capacity training, because once the board is diverse, has people from different representations, they will perhaps understand the value of ESG more. So people who are exposed to sustainability, to social governance, to better regulatory practices, to have an effective board, capacity building. So these 2, yes.
Very well. Yeah.
I would say building ESG in design. So when we are building hotels, if we build ESG sustainability part of the design, you don't have to go to the owners for additional money to execute sustainability initiative in practice. And the second would be benchmarking. If we have the right benchmarking, I was reading an article where LED certification happens if you achieve water consumption per occupied room from 400 to 800 liters for the luxury segment. I mean, that's a very big bracket. So if you have to, if the right benchmarking is there, and also for the hotels to understand where we are today, benchmarking is very critical. So metering of, consumable resources can actually help us understand where we are. And that's where we can actually set goals and a path to achieve our sustainability.
We need architectural changes. Our global architecture in many areas is very, very flawed. Therefore, it requires a transformative change. So the industry needs to decarbonize very quickly in its operation, decouple from the landfill sites. How do we make systems in our hotels such that nothing goes to the landfill sites? For your information, ladies and gentlemen, landfill sites occupy 1,576 square kilometers of land, prime land in metro cities. And if we take a business as usual approach, the land required for landfill sites will be 3,576 square kilometers. So to make this happen, we have to migrate from a linear production process to a circular process.
Thank you. Yeah, Sriram.
Three things. First, it's not future. Please eliminate the idea that you're saving it is for the future. It is here and now. I think there can't be enough stress on this. That is one. Two, anybody using the term saving the planet is wrong. Planet's been there for 3.5 billion years. It'll be there for 3 billion years. This is the ultimate selfish motive. It's for survival of Homo sapiens on this planet. That's the second. I think we should, by saying saving the planet, we are decoupling ourselves from, as if we're doing something for the planet. This is for ourselves. That's second. Third, and most important in this context is the companies which are successful using sustainability are because they made sustainability core to their value and they build their business and their revenue model around it, not the other way around where you created your business model, you created your profit margins, and then say, "Acha, now let's add sustainability." I think that shift has to. Rest of it, it's your business. You're very good at it. There's successful stories around, right? You can do it yourself, but that thought process changed a little bit.
Yeah, I think the third point was the most impactful. That we have to do that.
Yeah,
we definitely
there are
have to.
Success stories only in the ones who have done that. There are umpteen failures who have not done that, who are just doing lip service. And you can't afford lip service anymore.
I think CGH Earth perhaps again is the best example of this third point that they have built, in the right way. They've been
said we want to build sustainable hotels and we'll make business margins around it. Just to veer away from CGH because there's an opportunity, check out Patagonia. Patagonia is a clothing company which said, I will make sustainable clothing and recreation equipment, and I'll also make profit around it. As opposed to saying, I have a profit margin, H&Ms of the world will do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for a wonderful panel. Thank you for your patience. And I don't think we have time for questions, so you can connect offline with all the panelists after this. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you to all our ESG panelists for that compelling and informative discussion. And moving on to our next panel discussion, which will shift our focus to GM Crossroads from staff and guests to profits and planet, moderated by Mr. Ranveer Bhandari, President of Hospitality at Lodha Ventures. We have an esteemed lineup of Mr. Gaurav Miglani, General Manager, Taj Bangalore, Madhav Sehgal, Area Vice President, South India, Leela Palaces Hotels and Resorts, Manish Garg, General Manager, Hilton Bangalore Embassy Manyata Business Park and Hilton Garden Inn, Ronan Ferron, General Manager, JW Marriott Bangalore Prestige Golfshire Resort and Spa, and Sharik Akhtar, General Manager, ITC Grand Chola. Can we have everybody on stage, please? And let's hear it for them, please. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Sorry, I'm going to cut short your time. Kidding. Please, let's keep the interest of the audience.
Thank you. Firstly, a very good evening to all of you. I must thank our learned jury friends who gave a very, very engaging and a very, very informative discourse. I think the only thing that was not sustainable was the overstepping the time, because time is also sustainability in the very scarce resource. I'd like to say that my esteemed friends who are with me, many of them I've worked with, and there's about 150 years experience, hospitality experience in this panel. And I must compliment that this is a journey. I just wanted to reflect that how we as hoteliers evolved. And I have the privilege of going through 4 decades of hoteliering. So, when I started in my formative years, all we learned was innkeeping. Guest is God. And our entire balance scorecard was on, the guest service index and how we performed. As we went on, there was judging on revenue and profitability. And there again, our balance scorecards got judged with, how our revenues were, top line was, and then profitability. And slowly, as I moved on in my career, somebody started talking about green hotels, and the greening of hotels began, but it was limited to, a little bit on the environment, and the other part was that, very plant-based. As we moved on, there was a lot of inputs on EHS, environment, health, and safety. And that became prominent. And we began to evolve further as we went into year 2000s. And that's the time, I think, ESG began really into prominence in the hospitality industry. Now, there were a series of gig lamps of really good ESG practices in my entire career path. And in this reinvention, I think we were able to understand that, you just don't cut cost, but you identify and cut waste. And when you are identifying waste, I think there was a lot which was linked. And that actually brought in innovation. There was a lot more ideation and innovation where hoteliers started innovating and having teams where these teams were encouraged, and they were across levels, let me tell you. From a doorman to the general manager, people who were involved. And in these new ideas, better ideas, we were able to come up with some great innovations. And I must compliment all the hoteliers who did great work and effort in sensitizing to this. However, having said that, I think we've just scratched the surface. As to say today, there's really miles to go, because yes, I think our impact, when we are in the environment, and hoteliers are everywhere. We are in the safaris, we are in the resorts, we are in city hotels, we are in the beaches, we are in the mountains, and everywhere there is an impact, and this impact needs to be measured. I don't think we are all right now calculating our carbon calculator, or there is a carbon tax, or we are actually understanding that any event we do, do we measure? Do we measure the carbon calculator? Are our balance scorecards linked to that? I think there is something that we need to, and as the learned jury mentioned, that this has to cascade from the top as a culture. And I think that culture begins from a philosophy. That philosophy gets ingrained when there is one owner, one operator, and one very clear philosophy. Unfortunately or fortunately, the business is not that simple. I mean, there are owners, there are joint ventures, there are operators, there are franchises, and there are several partners. So everyone needs to be on the same page. And I strongly urge that, this is where communication is really, really important. I think I'm just setting the context to tell you how this whole thing has evolved. And I'm going to dive deep into our topic, which is ESG. Now, I have I think all our panelists, we all agree that E, S, and G are in many ways interlinked and intertwined. I don't think one exists without the other. Although, yes, I agree, E and G have been very prominent. The S word has not been that prominent, but I think it's gaining prominence. G at one time was more the domain of the corporate, not the unit. But I think at the end of the day, we've evolved there too. So I'm going to dive into some perspective from our panelists now, and I'll start with the letter E. And I'll start with my friend Madhav. So Madhav, how in your hotels are you addressing environmental sustainability, and what specific initiatives, or at least one or two if you can share, has the team implemented to reduce carbon footprint and promote environmental conservation?
Thank you, Mr. Bhandari. And thank you to Vibor and ITP for giving us the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. So at Leela, ESG is extremely important to us. The E, the S, and the G. For environment specifically, yes, we have Ojasya, which is our wellness program, and we've got bottling plants as part of that. We don't have single-use plastic in our hotels. As part of Tisha, which is our signature fragrance and our bathroom amenities, all the bottles are recycled. We have, as part of sustainable sourcing, sustainable seafood sourcing, which is implemented across all our hotels. Yes, we have EV chargers, which are also now common and available across the industry at large for the most part, but we're proud to have them in our hotels. And many such points which have sort of come up to be in the bracket of E. At Leela Palace Bangalore, specifically, we are very happy and very proud to say that we are a green hotel where we own 4 windmills, 5 megawatt production, generating about 75,000 units a year that covers our entire hotel's consumption. So the entire hotel is a green hotel in terms of the energy that we use. And we're kind of unique in that proposition. When you come to the hotel, you will see that it's a 7.5-acre oasis. We've got 32 variety of palm trees which are growing. So when you're living in Bangalore and you have the opportunity to drive in through the driveway and come to a beautiful palace like that, you're already hit by the fact that it is a green destination. Then you learn of all of these things, you know, it helps in developing increased loyalty. And green power is one of those important ones where, you know, we have these windmills, which we're very proud of. And what I've noticed is that a lot of our guests who are traveling in from abroad value this and appreciate this a lot. And I'm saying this because there's a very serious business case to it. These companies are traveling, they're hectically busy. They're counting their carbon footprints better than what we are in our business and across the country at large, I think. And they really value and appreciate any industry or anybody who's really taking the initiatives and effort to be green and do as much as what we are. And they're willing to therefore pay a premium for that. Right? And therefore, the business case from there, your heat, light, and power bill is cut by, if it's a 8 to 9% or 7% in a good hotel, we're, you know, much lower than that because we're negating our entire cost. We're uploading green power and we're taking that. So there's a benefit of the cost which is coming into the GOP and EBITDA for the hotel also at the same time. And it's a cultural thing within the hotel. The gentleman who manages our horticulture and our business for the environment of the palace itself and the estate has been with the company for 36 years. So I'm fortunate to have an amazing team. Some of them are here who breathe this for us day in, day out and carry the flag of the ESG initiatives.
Thank you, Madhav, for that. I think, you know, whilst there are so many good things happening and you'll hear from all our general managers, but I think there is an important need to have a platform of communication where sharing can be done in a more immediate manner, and these shared information could become good knowledge and practice. I think that is something that is an opportunity where hoteliers need to share more across best practices and benchmarks. Having said that, you know, what gets measured gets managed, and I'd like to ask Ronan. Ronan, how do you measure and report on your environmental impact, and what metrics do you use to track progress? And my second part of my question to you is that, are there examples of innovation? I mentioned innovation and partnerships, liaisons that have led to improved environmental sustainability in your hotel or in your experience?
Thank you, Werner. Lovely to be here again, and thank you, Bibor, to have all of us here. I always feel special to be included in these kind of events. So thank you very much. So I think from a ESG point of view and how we report and record it, I think from a Marriott perspective, we have a number of initiatives that go on a local community point of view, citywide point of view, and even on a grand scale, a full countrywide scale. So we have platforms using technology to have various different tools and tracking techniques. But if I was to give you an example of this, just this past month, a few months ago, was the World Environment Day. So we took the initiative as a company with 150 hotels throughout India to plant 2 trees for every available room that we have throughout the entire country. So on the 5th of June, all of our hotel teams planted 32,000 trees on one day to make an impact for the entire environment. We've other projects such as we've just recently started a focus on attracting females who maybe didn't have the same start to life as we did, a social project in order to attract females to work in our industry, to invest in those. Each hotel takes and adopts 2 or 3 ladies from local communities and we encourage them, we invest in them, we give them hotel qualifications, we give them training, we give them a career path in order to do that. So we put a lot of focus on the tracking system, which is all online, to make sure that all of our hotels are participating in this. And in terms of innovation, I think as hoteliers, we are not the experts. We are not the technical experts when it comes to this topic. So an awful lot of things when it comes to environmental or social compliance is to try to be creative. It is just about getting out there, communicating. It's about educating our teams, because a lot of our teams are young, energetic young people who are actually are faced with this future that we talked about in the panel before.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ronan. And actually, all these initiatives that we do, obviously, I'll be honest, there is an impact on the profit. And we are in our balanced scorecards, always looking at profitability, especially at the unit level, the GOP or the EBITDA. And we speak of the triple bottom line strategy. So you are creating shareholder value, but you're also creating societal value, and you're also creating environmental value. And I know ITC Hotels did a lot on that in the triple bottom line strategy. And Sharik, I'd like to ask you that what are those initiatives that we have taken, especially on the triple bottom line strategy?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Bhandari. It's great to be here. I think we've spoken in the previous panel as well that a lot gets spoken about E and the G, and S often gets neglected. But as part of the triple bottom line, I believe economic, social, as well as environmental, all 3 gets equal amount of focus. Now, as hotels, we are, of course, a people's business. That's why S has to gain the center of attention. Involving the local community is really important. I'll give an example from the world of ITC Hotels, where in a region in Madhya Pradesh, it's called Chhindwara. We've got a skill center that imparts culinary training to underprivileged youth. And they are, later on, they get an employment opportunity with ITC Hotels, restaurants, and so on. This is just one example. I think involving people of determination or people with special abilities, as they're called, war veterans, war widows, working with the army, the armed forces, employment of associates from the LGBTQ community. I think a lot of work has happened at ITC Hotels in the last 3 to 4 years for sure. On the S word, like you said, there is a project by the name of Project Noor, and it's called so because it started at ITC Kohinoor. Unlike everything that comes top down, this was something that came as an idea at the unit, and it was well supported by our corporate office, and the leaders there as well added a lot of value. And it's now part of 12 to 13 different hotels across the chain. So You have such wonderful stories coming out. Now, it's not just the representation that you have on your team in terms of numbers. I also believe, like Mr. Khatri said, creating infrastructure back end, having gender neutral washrooms, for example, or thinking of sensitive things like the locker rooms, etc. I think that went a long way, and this has now happened across all our hotels. So it's a great thing. It's a step in the right direction. I also believe that forward-thinking policies, people policies, are very, very critical. And some of the examples that I can give you, and just one example, I know we're short of time. For a lady who's traveling for work and who has young children back home, domestic help is really important. And I have 2 young boys at home, so I can give you a very personal example. ITC has now started providing child giver travel support and accommodation to the domestic help whenever the lady is traveling for work. So I think that's something really, really forward thinking, apart from having, of course, extended childcare leave, work from home and those options, etc. as well. So representation of ladies in the workforce, ladies in leadership roles. We are in Bangalore. We have 2 hotels that are run by ladies. One of them is sitting right here, Amandeep. And it's definitely, I think it's there to be seen in ITC hotels now.
Thank you so much. Yes, I completely agree. I mean, some of our lady general managers, I must say, have done amazingly well, and they're just natural in hospitality. And Aman, I mean, you should take a bow. Manish, I'm going to ask you, one of our biggest asset are our people. And today we are faced with, we just can't get good quality people. And, we are looking at various other opportunities of work-life balance. How do we improve that in the workplace? We are looking at the gig economy. People want to come and work for 8 months in a year. And, the other 4 months they take off and they do things that they want to pursue their passion. I just want to ask you, how do you look at the gig economy, and what do you think is the future of how we ensure that at least we attract high potential people as well as retain them?
Good evening. Gig economy is something that we have worked on. I'm the general manager at the Hilton and Hilton Garden in Manyata. And when we opened that hotel, it was COVID times. So at that point in time, we got people on for a very specific duration, for a very specific job. They did their job and then they left the organization. Very successful model, kept your cost in check. You are able to hire people who are good at what they do, and then they'll finish the job and they leave. I think that's the future. If you go back to the West, people come work for you, they know their job, they will work for a certain number of hours. The laws have to change. The laws have to change to accommodate this workforce, because we get too bogged down by PF rules, ESIC rules. So the laws have to change. But there's a certain market that is there, particularly as the talent becomes more difficult, and to manage the peaks and the troughs of the business, you need a workforce that comes when you need them and it is convenient for them, and they leave when they have to leave, and you part ways at that. That's the way future. You can't run from it. Opening this 600 key complex, we realized that it was very effective for us at that point in time. And if I were to go back and open the hotel again, I'll say that is the way to do it, that you get people in to do a job and they leave. But the laws of the land have to become simpler for that gig workforce to exist. And there's a very big workforce that is there in the market.
Thank you. I think, our chefs and our people in food and beverage production and service, they are becoming very aware that, they are using more local ingredients rather than importing them, where the carbon miles are much more, etc. And I think the awareness is greater. However, are we doing that the same with our people? I mean, this is a question to follow up on what you just said. I mean, if you look at India, most of our workforce, our frontliners are coming in from a few states, Uttaranchal, Northeast, Bengal, and we have hotels in every state, every city. Can we look at least ensuring that we get more local to that city, rooted to the soil people in our hotels?
Yes, I think so. And the best place to get people is from your colleges. How do you get these people? If you look at Bangalore as a city, the number of colleges that exist, you can pick them up. But the industry has to create that culture that working part-time, working 6 hours a day, working, or let's say 7 hours a day is okay. But that's a cultural shift that has to happen both from the industry and the society. And I think so, there has to be more people willing to accept the fact that I can study and work and it's okay. There's no problem with that. So I think that's a society that has to change. And we as an industry also have to change. Our training plans have to change. How we look at labor has to change, that people can come in, work for 6 hours and leave the hotel. That's fine. But it's a two-way process between the society and us and the institution in between that can be the educational institution.
Yeah. I think most importantly, whilst we are changing everyone else, I have to change. I think that's really, really important. Gaurav, I'm going to ask you about ESG. See, what happens is that sometimes ESG goes into the background because of financial performance and shareholder expectations. This is what I was talking about when I'm saying we create shareholder value. I'm saying in our balanced scorecard, are we actually linking performance to ESG?
Thank you, Mr. Bhandari. I think that's a very, very valid question. Something that gets measured, something that gets rewarded is something that gets actioned. So ESG, as far as the industry is concerned, we are early adopters of ESG, I would say. I think it's not something that we were used to for a long time, and I think it's something that we've started adopting now. Balanced scorecards have been aligned. Till about 10 years back, balanced scorecards spoke about financial performance, customer performance, and that was the end of it. Today, balanced scorecards, and I can talk about IHCL today, for us, balanced scorecards are equally aligned to ESG as well. So today, my performance parameter at the end of the year also measures what my gender diversity ratio is. It measures what is the number of local youth I've employed, what is the attrition rate of the hotel, what is my TPAM score, which measures governance, and it also measures what my environmental performance is. So how many of our hotels are EarthCheck certified today? So all these parameters put together constitute about approximately 20% of my performance parameters at the end of the year. So things are changing. I don't think we have another option. It's something that has to be done. And it's something that we all have to do collectively.
Yeah, I think, just to add to what you're saying, and I think the jury touched upon it, let's also ensure that the balanced scorecard cascades down to the lowest common denominator, right up to the frontliners. Everyone gets sensitized and communicated on what are the expectations and how performance gets linked to it.
So see, coming back to another point, and this is what we were discussing earlier in our discussion as well, sustainability is something that doesn't come cheap. And especially when you're trying to retrofit sustainability in existing operation, it requires money. And when it requires money, it requires willpower. So somebody spoke about glass water bottles on the table today, and that's a common through across all the hotels. The capex cost of the bottling plant, plus the O&M cost of operating the plant and running the plant, will never be able to cover up for the cost of the water bottles that used to earlier get supplied in terms of the plastic water bottles. But is the cost benefit analysis in favor of going along with the glass bottle? Definitely. Today, and I say this out of experience, in Bangalore today, 95% of the hotels have adopted these glass bottles. I was in the US about a month back, having stayed at almost 8 hotels over there. None of the hotels were using glass water bottles. They were still with plastic bottles. And looking at the size of those hotels and the amount of water that was being consumed, you could just imagine the amount of plastic waste that's being generated every day. So is there an option? There is definitely not an option. So while the balance scorecards are aligned for the managers, you're absolutely right. It needs to get linked down to the last person in the value chain, because that's where the rubber hits the road. Otherwise, we're just talking fluff, we're talking thin air, and the net results are not going to happen.
Thank you so much. There's always been a talk, and this was a myth many years ago, where we said that if it's luxury, it cannot be sustainable. If it's sustainable, it cannot be luxury. And luxury was looked at more of the glint of the marble and the chandelier, et cetera, and that changed. And we went into luxury. What is luxury? And luxury became something which is rare. And what is rare? And rare are things that are not in the urban context available to all of us. And that could be simply being down to earth or being connected to the soil, or plucking a rocket from the soil and actually eating it because it's completely organic. Now, in this context, Ronan, what are your views on, can sustainable be luxury as well?
I think we are all here to show that it can be. I think if anybody's here looking to see a punch-up between hoteliers tonight, you're going to be really disappointed, because we're all on the same page when it comes to working towards a sustainable future, working to providing experiences for our guests that are in line with our values that we have when it comes to sustainability. I think if you look, and we talked about the water bottles, which is a great example. I had previously been in Dubai, and I came here, and all of these hotels that we have all of these water bottles, right? And a previous hotel that I worked in made this big noise about having the first bottling plant in the United Arab Emirates. And I'm thinking, my God, you usually think that Dubai would be quite far ahead of these things, but actually India has got a lot of initiatives that's in place. Also, I think most of us have now moved away from these small bottles, which 20, 30 years ago, people would have thought that's luxury, right? The little shampoo bottles, the little soap, this is luxury. When actually now we've got better quality products that are sustainable, that are in these big bottles stuck to the shower wall, that are easily to be either replaced or refilled, whichever way you want to do it. And I think our guests are expecting to see that. My children, when we go to a hotel, they see these bottles and they understand why it's there. And when they see the small bottles, they're not so impressed, so.
Oh, thank you, Ronan. And actually, when I worked with Soneva Resorts, they are somebody who really opened my eyes to purpose hotels. I mean, everything for them is a purpose, and their philosophy is slow life, and slow life stands for sustainable, local, organic, wellness, learning, inspiring, fun experiences. And everyone is aligned to that, from the lowest common denominator frontline, and everyone breathes that, lives it. Now, that is lived because it is a culture. Now, the chairman was not called the chairman, he was called guardian of the culture. I, as the managing director, operations and general manager, was called guardian of the experience. Because at the end of the day, all we are giving is experiences, and experiences are very much entwined in innovation and sustainability. Now, Sharik, I'm going to ask you, what role does innovation play in your scheme of things to advance sustainability and social responsibility within ITC Grand Chola?
So I'll keep the answer short. Innovation is definitely big at ITC Hotels. We've got a culture of an idea a week, so 52 ideas in a year. What we essentially cover is, are things like project sustainability. It could be guest experience point of view. It could be new things in food and beverage. It could be projects that cover a big angle on sustainability. I'll give you an example that came out of it. People don't talk about this type of pollution, but that it's called electromagnetic pollution. Sitting in this room, we've got electromagnetic waves from Wi-Fi, from our phones, from screens, and everything else that's there in the room. We teamed up with a consultant and worked on all our hotels for radiation harmony. And what it essentially does is it allows the heart to beat better. Okay. To cut it short, there are inert chips at various vantage points in the hotel that bring this radiation down and the harmful impact down. This is the worst kind of pollution that's there because it can't be seen. Everybody talks about bottle plants and stuff like that. It's great that we've come a long way, but we have to start thinking of these things as well, because wellness is big, employee wellness is big, our guest wellness is at the center of things.
Fantastic. I think all of us say that we want to be carbon positive, we want to be water positive, solid waste recycle positive. But I think at the end of the day, we need to be that innovative that we need to have a waste to wealth program where at least 90% of all waste should be converted to wealth. Now, when you say wealth, meaning it has some reuse. And, when we spoke about the circular economy, and we spoke about reuse and recycle, et cetera. I think, how do you enhance the lifetime value of anything that you use, whether it's a machine or a resource? Let me ask Ronan again. Ronan, tell me, on the circular economy, what are your views on the same?
Well, I think there's a number of elements when it comes to the circular economy. And I think when in our resort where we are located, right, we have to kind of utilize what is in our vicinity as best as possible. We have local people that need jobs. We have local suppliers that provide food and products for our hotel. Our associates live locally within the community, within the area. So that obviously has a knock-on effect when it comes to shops, markets in Devanahalli as an example. So I think the more you stay within the community, the more movement the economy will have within. As I said, we purchase fruit and vegetables from local farmers. We have our own JW garden where we have products right on site, where we try to keep that economy moving in that field. So I think it's incredibly critical for us, especially the more remote you are in a location, the more critical that is for us.
Madhav, I'm going to ask you on, I'd spoken about the three letters are interlinked and interwoven in many ways. What are your views on the same, and how are you communicating this to your team?
So all three of them are definitely very closely interlinked, right? And it's impossible to say that you can focus on one without the other. Everybody's looking at the environment. Everybody's looking at society together. Your guests, your patrons, your employees, your suppliers, your colleagues, all of them. And I'll talk about Leela Palace Bangalore social initiatives, like in the context of how we're doing this is, again, thanks to the efforts from the team, we've intertwined ourselves into the society really well with some very key initiatives which bring all three to life. For example, a partnership with the Yakshagana, which is a dance form, native dance form from here, which is regressing and not that commonly found anymore. Supporting them and supporting the Mahila Foundation that cultivates and trains women in that dance form, right? And coincidentally, they're performing at the hotel twice a week. Another such example is VMore, which is a textile museum in the heart of the city. Not many people here would have known of it, but it is the most beautiful, quaint museum that you would see and you would experience, and you would want to take your family, your wife, your kids there, and our guests love going there, right? And it's again, we are supporting them, in them supporting handloom and women who work training on handloom and how to make products from there. And then Kailash Satyarthi ji, for example, he's a Nobel Prize winner. He's an icon of India by the Leela. And we're partnering with him on his foundation for supporting children in the, bringing them out of poverty, education, their well-being, their health, etc. Coincidentally, we also have a concert series with Ricky Cage, who's a 3-time Grammy-winning artist, also United Nations Ambassador for Goodwill, amongst other things, in coordination with Kailash Satyarthi Foundation for Compassion, coming up now in the near future. So what's happening is that everybody is involved in this ESG project, consciously, not just subconsciously as it was earlier on, right? And it's coming more and more to life. So I'm glad that we have sessions like these now, where again, it's sort of representing that all three of them are coming together in the context of one.
Thank you, Madhav. In the interest of time, I'll quickly move to another thought that occurred to me is that, whilst we look for quality people in hotels, we are constantly outsourcing and having third-party partners, etc. However, are we truly, involving them in decision making, in critical strategy, because at the end of the day, as far as the guest is concerned, they all represent our brand. And how are we ensuring that they are being treated in the same way to ensure that their motivation levels as well as their inputs are on the same wavelength? Let me ask you, Gaurav, what are your thoughts on it?
We were talking about this with Natwar earlier on this evening, and outsourced workforce, gig economy, this is something that's going to stay. Hotels are never going to have enough and more workforce of their own, so you will have to integrate workforce from all areas. Data from hotel management colleges clearly states that the admission rate in hotel management colleges has been on the decline. This year, I think it's close to about 40% seats that are vacant. So your biggest talent pool is drying up today. There are industries that are opening up which are attracting talent from the hospitality industry. Retail is a lucrative industry. Luxury retail is something that's attracting talent from within the hotels as well. Unless we wake up today and start looking at things from a different perspective, things are not going to change. So first thing is, how do we retain the workforce? First and foremost thing that needs to be done is to change the impression about this is how the industry has to be. And you know, over the years, and you've seen it much more than me, a lot of time we take pride in saying this is how the industry works. It's a tough industry to be in. It's meant to be long hours. It's not. It's just another industry. It is a job. We often confuse a job with a passion. If it was passion, you didn't have to get paid for it, and the other way around. So one has to start realizing the fact that it's a job. It comes along with the work-life balance. People need to have the opportunity to lead a normal life even when they pursue a career in hospitality. Till the time we don't realize that, we're only going to drive people away. So it's important to adhere to hours. It's important to adhere to weekly offs. It's important to give people time off. Second thing, are we taking care of people enough? Are we meeting their needs, emotional, financial, physical? And this is where I see a lot of change happening, especially at IHCL. 15 years back, people would take pride and say, oh, I haven't taken an off for 3 years. Oh, you're stupid that you haven't taken an off for 3 years. That's the answer they get today. You should have looked after yourself. You should have spent that time with your family. And this is what you have to give to your workforce today. So first of all, the mindsets need to change. Are we paying people enough? No, we are not. Pardon my language when I say in the hotel industry, we expect 15,000 ke Hanuman. So we pay 15,000, we expect the guy to do everything. We want them to look pretty. We want them to speak well. We want them to work hard, but we just don't want to pay well. How do you expect somebody to lead a good lifestyle, deliver luxury when they are far away from luxury in their own lives? So people need to be paid enough so that they're able to lead a decent lifestyle today. Gig economy, I think we spoke about it, and we've not adopted it good enough till now, but I think there is one example of it that I see in the Taj today, and that's just one example. Seven Rivers, the restaurant at Taj MG Road, they started something called the Seven Rivers Academy. They realized there's a lot of people out there that fancy working in bars, but don't necessarily want to work in a bar for 7 days of the week. So they started something called the Seven Rivers Academy. They started giving out certification to people. And these are people working in call centers, people working in other industries that came, got a certification in bartending and working in a bar. And now they're a part of a WhatsApp group. So every weekend, all the restaurant manager needs to do is just send out a message to say, hey, listen, 10 people needed for today evening. And you have people working from 4 o'clock in the evening till 12 o'clock, get paid by the hour and go back home. Example of gig economy. Natwar and we spoke. Natwar's having, he's come up with a brilliant initiative. He's today willing to supply quality entry-level workforce to hotels with the basic level of training that we need them in the hotels with. It's important that we start encouraging that Natwar today. And we need many more Natwars. A step in the right direction, I think IHCL took was creating 32 skill training centers across 15 different states today. We run 32 skill training centers. Over the last 3 years, we've trained close to 13,000 people who are now employable across the industry. Pathway targets for us, we want to train or rather skill 100,000 people by the end of 2030. That creates a large enough workforce. And this is a responsibility that all of us as hoteliers share. Today, it's not just about having workforce for your own hotel or your own organization. What we need to do is to create workforce for the industry. It's the industry that's struggling. At the end of the day, if we are not able to create it for the industry, we will always have a shortfall within our hotels. Sorry for the long answer.
No, thank you for that. And I know we, in the interest of time, I'll go with one more question. Manish, this is about disclosure, communicating, any incident, no matter how big or small, on fraud or related misappropriation, etc. or in the subject of posh. How sensitive are we now to these various topics?
So my hotel is owned by a REIT. It's the first REIT in India. It's a public listed company. And like any other public listed company, we are so cognizant that those matters have to be, that governance comes up very high up on many parameters. Today, India operates around 160 to 170,000 hotel rooms. US has 40 times those rooms. Now, for India to grow, India requires public funding. So hotels will be in the future public funded stock market trading companies, and these are the requirements that have to be there, and they will be there as we move forward. We as GMs have to get over the fact that governance is a matter related to the board. No, governance as a matter is related to the GMs also.
Okay, I'm going to cut you short. I think we've run out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the GMs have a lot to share. I mean, if we had another half an hour, and you can see that there's a lot of good work going on, but it's basically, miles to go still. I think it's a low start, and we're, I think, picking up. But, it's also like an empty canvas for all of you. I mean, we all need to paint on it together to create what we are trying to do. And this is a very sensitive topic. I'll just end off with a little small story, which got embedded in a village in India, where there was a panchayat, and there was this wise old man who would come every day at 4 o'clock and address the panchayat and solve all their problems. And the villagers were really happy with him because he would answer all their questions. One day there were two young gentlemen of the village who had gone abroad to study. They came back, they were having a drink, and they said, listen, this era of the wise old man has to stop now. We've had enough of him. We are now the new regime, and tomorrow we should go and take over. So this other guy said, listen, how do we take over? The guy has answers to everything. So he said, no, I'll tell you what. I'll take a pigeon in my hand and I'll put it in the back. And I'll put one hand will be on the pigeon's stomach and one will be on the neck. And I'll ask them, the wise old man, is the pigeon dead or alive? If he says he's dead, I'll make it fly. If he says he's alive, I'll just turn my wrist clockwise and the pigeon will die, and I'll prove him wrong. So that was really good. So they said, it's a great plan. Next morning, they were there at the panchayat. They asked the question to the wise old man, and they said, wise old man, I've got a pigeon behind my back. Is it dead or is it alive? And the wise old man looked at him and said, my dear son, whether it's dead or it's alive, it's all in your hands. So ladies and gentlemen, that's what it is for all of us. It's in our hands. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bhandari, and all esteemed panelists. That was a very insightful discussion. Now, moving on to our last panel discussion, the power panel. And after that, we are waiting for the much awaited ESG awards. But before that, let me announce the topic, which is Profit with Purpose, Decoding with Indian Equation. And this panel is moderated by Mr. Jaideep Dang, Managing Director of the Hotels and Hospitality Group at JLL. And this time, Jaideep is taking away my job. He's decided to call the panelist himself.
Thank you very much. And I'll tell you why I did that, because Vibhor always gives me the last lap to run, and the train's always running late, and he wants me to run the fastest. Okay. So, and therefore, and I have, an interesting panel, and I'll make sure that they all run equally fast. Since we are on the topic of ESG, I didn't get enough preparation on that, but I can tell you, someone on the previous panel said that, the companies should model around ESG, and then the business model should work around that. You see, I work for JLL. It's a 140-year-old company. For God's sake, we had no idea about ESG, but about, I would say 10 years ago, we really became very serious. So serious that we believe that, we now at the forefront of driving certain practices within the ESG realm. We've designed our own office in a manner which is a model office. We are a real estate brokerage and advisory company, which has a lot of paper and the trail, but our office is absolutely paperless. We don't have drawers. We don't have paper bins. We don't encourage you to get paper in office. And if you have, please put it in your pocket, take it back home. Then there are plenty other initiatives that we have taken. And the reason why we've done this is because we also fit out offices. We also fit out hotels. So we believe that if we are running the show ourselves, we will also compel our clients and educate them to do it. Now, the idea here is not to tell you what all we are doing in ESG, but I'm also taking a lot of ideas of whatever I've been informed through these very intelligent panels. Just to take a pause here and taking a segue with what Manish said, that the future of hotels could be a lot of funds and institutional capital. So I'm taking that plank out and telling you what the future is looking like and how the capital is moving in this asset class. What does it mean to hoteliers like all of you? And what does it mean to investors? And I have a very interesting panel with a couple of investors in it. And what does it mean for ESG? Now, just to give you headlines and a bit of data relativity, last year in 2023, there were 3,300 crores of transaction value in hotels asset class alone, which traded hands. 22 hotels got sold in this country. This is first of its own data point. Never before so many hotels got traded in this country. Last time, this number was 3,850 crores when Brookfield bought Leela, those 8 hotels. Now here, 22 hotels sold for 3,300 crores. Look at the volume of money coming into this sector. This year, YTD, until last month, about 3,000 crores of money is already gotten into the sector through various investments. Who are these hotel owners that Manish just said? There are institutional people, but more than that, there are high net worth individuals who are buying these hotels, which means that they are the hotel owners of the future. And there are from different businesses who made money in stock markets, made money in pharma, made money out of COVID, and many other businesses. Now, look at it from the volume. How much of the stock is being signed and built? You know, last year, 25,000 rooms were signed in this country. 25,000 rooms. This number in 2022 was roughly 20,000. 12,000 rooms opened up in last year in this country. Someone said we're still about less than 200,000 rooms in this country. As opposed to this, New York is 125,000, Bangkok about 110,000, and we as a whole country still about 200,000. So therefore, a lot is going to happen. Therefore, a lot of footprint will be used. Therefore, a lot of investment will come in. Therefore, we need a lot more consciousness in this sector while we are building up. On this note, I'm going to call a very interesting panel, which I said is a mix of investors and hoteliers. And let's ask them as to how they build the story, what encouraged them to do what they are doing, and what do they think about ESG. May I first call, and starting with the lady, Ms. Shruti Shibulal from Tamra. Thank you. I call Christina Roche from Roche Life Spaces. So ladies on the dais already, now focus back to the gentlemen. And we're often told that we are more gentlemen in this industry than ladies, but I can tell you the trend is changing. My CEO is a lady. Biggest businesses of JLL are being run by ladies. So we're doing a little bit on ESG as well. May I call Rajneesh Malhotra from Chalet Hotels. He's the mover and shaker. They're building and they're doing the maximum stuff that we all see. And the stock market also tells you that, isn't it? Mr. Ranjit Batra, the man of few words, more smiles, please come. Ranjit Batra has done fantastic initiatives for Panchsheel Group. And it doesn't happen too often. I have more operators generally, but here I have only one operator, Jatin Khanna, CEO, Sarova Hotels. And the trains leaving the station. Yeah. And we make sure, where is Bibor? We make sure that the bell doesn't ring. Jatin, it doesn't happen too often, right? We have people generally from Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, IHG, Sarovar, all of us on the dais, and one owner that we struggle to get. But here is Bibor. He always gets owners, investors first, and what a fair balance you create. Thank you very much. We love it because they are the people who spend money and we get paid. Oh, really? Yes.
So
Okay.
does that mean I'm not answering anything?
No, you'll be the last one to answer. I'm saving the best for you.
Done.
Okay. We'll start with the ladies. And Shruti, Tamra, I'll tell you first before I ask you your story. Let me tell you my story. A few years ago, I was searching for some land parcels in Coorg. I used to be with Oberoi Hotels, working very closely with the late chairman, Mr. PRS Oberoi. And one fine evening, it was raining cats and dogs, as does in Coorg, with a few leeches on my legs. And I ended up entering your hotel. And I was mesmerized. It was genuinely beautiful and very well done. So I called Mr. Oberoi, and Mr. Oberoi, I said, Mr. Oberoi, I don't think we need to do a hotel in Coorg because someone's already done an Oberoi. So he says, what do you mean? He didn't like the statement. I said, let me go back and let me come back to office and I'll tell you. And I showed him some pictures. He was pleased. And you know what he told me? He says, Jaideep, someone's pushed the needle on us. We need to push the needle further. That means there's no stopping, right? We need to do more and better. So, sorry, now your time of the story. How did you think about it? And we are doing this intentionally so that we kind of familiarize ourselves better with the panel and then we get on to the subject. Shruti.
So firstly, that is one of the highest compliments in a story that I've ever received. So thank you so much for sharing that. So we're actually also operators. So, you know, we have that. But so Tamara Leisure Experiences, we've been in the business for the last 12 years. We own and operate thus far 3 brands. We have the Tamara Resorts, which are luxury resorts, Obai Tamara, which is our upscale business brand, and Lilac Hotels, which is our mid-segment. We currently have 8 properties that we are operating. We are, in fact, soft launching our 9th one in the next 1 week, hopefully. And we have numerous properties in development within all 3 brands. We're also entering international markets. We actually already own 4 properties in Germany, but we have acquired land in Bhutan, for instance, which we are currently developing, and we have a whole bunch of other properties that we're working on. And most recently, we've actually started pursuing an asset-light strategy as well, and so that's also going quite well at the moment. So we have been doing this, and we've taken a portfolio approach to how we want to build and grow our brand. But at the core of this, from the very beginning, and what you would have witnessed at the Tamara Coorg in those early days, is that we've always had sustainability and responsibility as part of our DNA. It is something which has been absolutely intrinsic to who we are, and we have utilized that in the way that we have designed our hotels and the way that we have built our hotels, and finally, absolutely in the way that we operate our hotels. It's been a great journey because I think we have learned tremendously over these years as to how we can continue to innovate, how we can continue to implement new strategies around this. How can we get our people to really come in and buy into this? I think that's also a really interesting topic because as a new brand, as a growing brand, we don't have people who have sort of grown up within the brand necessarily. So you're inducting people from all kinds of other brands into your organization and helping them in a way, drink the Kool-Aid, right? You're trying to make sure that you educate them and make them understand why it's important. What is the purpose for which we exist? And how are we implementing that in a meaningful way and then representing that to our guests while also performing well, being a very strong, profitable organization that is on a growth trajectory.
Great. I move on to Christina. Christina represents Roche Life Spaces, Lifescapes. I'm sorry, you've been doing homes for many years, and I'm told that building a hotel is building your home into 100 times. So that's the kind of detailing which is required and the indulgence which is required. So how come this asset class came into your attention, and was this natural move from what you were doing as an organization, or was it some opportunistic property came your way and you thought, okay, let's buy this and build this? What's the story there?
Well, basically, it was a couple of years ago, around 2006, when we were knee-deep into real estate and plotted developments. That's all we were doing for the longest time. And then we had this piece of land on the Outer Ring Road, which was just developing and becoming the IT hub. It was just starting off. And my dad thought that it would be the right opportunity to. It was a big risk also because we were not into construction at all. So he decided, I don't know, he just suddenly decided that maybe this would be a good opportunity for us to get into hospitality and build a hotel. It was definitely the most nerve-wracking, but we built this 220 key property and we got bit by the hospitality bug. And now, funny enough, our portfolio has more hospitality and lesser real estate.
Well, that's very encouraging to know. You see, that means there is profitability.
No, definitely.
And that means it's indulgence with a purpose.
Yes.
And you chose a good time, by the way. It's a cyclical business, but then it also is important. And the way we advise our investors is what's the time that you're getting in. And by the way, if you're in for longer term, the way Chalet and Panchil are, then they will suggest that, okay, listen, every time is a good time, right? And you have examples, the gentleman sitting both on your left, who've actually made this business and grown to an extraordinary level. Again, coming to Chalet, which started or germinated through the brilliant KRC, K. Raheja Corp business. Rajneesh, the way I see, and we work very closely on many things, your speed to development and taking decisions and growing this business is absolutely spectacular in the last 2 to 3 years, and which, as I said in the introduction, is also shown on the street at the stock price. Now, what's the vision, and how many hotels already? How much are you building? And where do you want to sort of take it in the next 5 years so that we kind of understand the scale, and then we move on to the subject on hand?
Well, we are a small company, considering we just have 10 hotels and around 3,052 rooms. We are valued at more than $2 billion market cap, I think, now. And where we're going to be, I can't be disclosing that. But of course, because we're a listed company, and we've already announced our intent, and we followed that up with action. We were listed around 5 years back in 2019, and the growth path was clearly specified to the investors, and we stuck to that. And one of the qualities of Chalet, and probably the reason behind the stock, although I don't want to comment on the stock escalation and going down, etc., is that we've stuck to the commitments or the growth path that we had charted for ourselves. The company charted for itself around 5-6 years back on listing. Currently, our strategy revolves around developing greenfields or acquiring assets from within drivable distance from major cities, which are satellite leisure towns like Lonavala. We acquired Dukes a year back. We acquired the Courtyard by Aravali in Faridabad, which is driving distance from Delhi, Gurgaon, Faridabad. And we are looking at more options like that for into the leisure segment. Our core still remains the business hotels, which we own in these Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, and Bombay. And Delhi, we already have Taj under development, which everybody's aware of. So we will stick to our strategy of sticking to tier 1 markets for business hotels and going to leisure destinations. We've already announced our intent on Goa and Rajasthan and some other destinations around North India. So we are aggressively pursuing opportunities in those areas.
Now, I'll tell you, you also brought a lot of credibility to this sector by way of your performance. And you know, we have seen at least 3 or 4 other companies who've now have listed themselves in the last 1 year. Basically, there is a momentum in the market, and that's how even retail investors and stock market is sort of looking at our industry, which was not always looked upon the way it is today. So thank you for bringing in that discipline and also taking that path and leading that charts. Ranjit, you're not far behind. In fact, you've built one of the best hotels, though you've had your own cluster. And now I understand, a lot of us know that you're also getting into Maldives, which is a very sensitive market. So why don't I dive into the subject of ESG with you? Because I believe it's really close to your heart, and you've brought certain great initiatives in your existing hotels, and you're taking some with the new hotels that you are building. So would you just tell us what you did with Marriott in your existing portfolio, and how you're taking this forward in Maldives, which is environmentally one of the most sensitive markets to build in?
As usual, the operator goes last. So we have a portfolio of 9 hotels, and we have a pipeline of 4 to 5 hotels that are under development. The 9 hotels, I've been with Panchi for 17 years, so it's been a great journey. We started off with a small hotel, which was a service apartment, Oakwood, and the last hotel that we opened was a Ritz-Carlton. Hotels that are under development are about to open is in Maldives, which is Raya, and we have just acquired a strategic partnership with Soho House International to go pan-India. So there's very exciting refurbs as well that we're doing. We're doing a refurb in Bangalore, in Whitefield, and we're doing one in Varanasi as well. So that's pretty much our portfolio. Regarding Maldives, when I started working very closely with the sales and marketing team in Maldives, I realized that the initiatives for sustainability had so much more importance, since the whole ecosystem is so fragile, that actually it is not part of the story, it is the story in Maldives and times to come. What I learned in the previous time with the Marriott was because sustainability is very close to my heart. I remember the days where after Raj and Neeraj to change all the amenities to what we have now, which are getting rid of all the plastic bottles. And I think I really put a lot of pressure at that time. I'm not going to take all the credit, but this was on top of our agenda. And we managed to push our operator, I'm saying it in public because that's the way it was, where we really pushed the new initiatives of the big dispensers that we have now in all the hotels. Having said that, there are a few more initiatives that we are trying. Right now, the big battles are trying to get rid of, these might be sounding small, but these are big wins in a volume space. We're actually fighting to get rid of the food basket. I think that's a total waste of a lot of good quality carbon footprint, which goes down the dustbin. And we are also looking at sustainability in the lowest category, where we look at recycling the STPs, and I think going forward we'll be looking at sustaining most of the important initiatives that we have. I'm just forgetting 1 or 2, but
I'll get back.
Sure. At this point, let's get the operator. I know Shruti, you're an operator as well, but you're owner operator, the way I see it. And Jatin, who, you're asset light. I know you also Sarovar owned, I think, a couple of
We own
hotels.
2 hotels.
Two
and one under
hotels.
construction.
Yes. And how many managed?
A total of 118 hotels, out of which 2 we own, 116 managed, and there's one under construction in Chennai, which will be our 3rd owned hotel.
Right. And a huge penetration in tier 2 and tier 3 towns as well. So you've taken hospitality far and beyond, which is very good when it comes to people and skilling, which I'll come to. But let's say on this panel, you have 2 owners sitting on your left who have large hotels, but none with you. If you were to make an elevator pitch, what will it be to these 2 gentlemen?
Okay, so elevator pitch cannot be more than 30 seconds, so I'll come to that.
Yeah, well, he's anyways going to penalize us if it is 31
But before that, let me say this. I've had the pleasure of working with Panchil, with Chalet, and with Roche Hospitality, all 3 of them.
So you're not here by chance, that means.
No. This is like a big arrangement. So let me say this. We're talking about sustainability. And I know Ranjit forgot 1 or 2 points, but I came back to India in 2012 when I got interviewed and I got my first job as general manager at Marriott Pune. By the way, that's the best hotel which Panchil has put, which is what you were referring to, right?
Yes.
I was general manager there for 5 years. That hotel started as a platinum lead.
Right.
We're talking about 2010 when the hotel opened.
Ahead of time.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that was one. When I worked with Chalet, I think one of the most progressive owners when it comes to thinking ahead. And they were the first owners who came up with their own goals. With Mr. Roche and Christina, we managed 2 of their hotels. So I don't need to make an elevator pitch to her. But the good part is that I joined Sarovar more than 2 years back and we started with a quarterly awards and both their hotels have been winning best HLP or the lowest HLP percentage to revenue every quarter, which is why, for a simple reason, that the ownership has invested in renewable energy. Now comes my elevator pitch, that 30 seconds. Everybody in this room, and I will let you draw comparisons after my 30 seconds of elevator pitch, everybody in this room, at some point, get into a phase to say, I want to go back and live in a small city, a peaceful place, quality of life, cost of living low, fresh air. I'm that operator for you with cost of living at a lower end, right? Giving you more flexibility. Now you decide whether what you want to think of that cost of living and all. But I am that small city with all the charms of big city, which is your CRS and GDS, giving you all that in that 30 seconds.
Wonderful.
Now you see how he patawed us, no?
Okay, that's good. But let me stick with you because the reason I do this is because of people. You get people fascinated to bigger cities most of the times. But then you've gotten, as I said, you penetrated into markets which didn't even have airports. Now, yes, your hotels have come before the airports. How do you find this situation which has emerged out of COVID? And I know a lot has been written, a lot has been talked about it, but how have you dealt with that problem of people moving away and not coming back? And then managing those shows that you're saying with so much of profitability with those people. How are you doing this on a regular basis?
So Jaideep, there's no straight answer. It's a multifold, path which you take. I'll give you a very simple example. Last year, as we are growing today, we are 118 hotels. We opened 10 hotels, 12 hotels last year. Year to date, we've already opened 10 hotels. And we were scratching our head, where do we get our ops managers or general managers from? So we started our internal program, which is GM development program. 8 HODs were enrolled, only 6 months of hard training. We putting our money into that. Out of that, 7 are general managers in our operating hotel today. Current batch has got 12. 2 have already been getting posted. It is for the first time that in mid-market, any company is putting their money for a management training program. They're all big boys who do the big stuff, but we're doing it in a very, very different way. We're starting from August, and we are funding it completely at Hotel Chandigarh. We've concised it to 12 months program, and it has got 3 touch points, which is we've tied up with ISH. They will be doing the lectures. People like Ajay and me will be doing the lectures, and people like you or Ranjit or somebody else will come and help us. But the biggest point is that all these management trainees are coming with a proper certification from ISH and with a very clear roadmap that there'll be touch point that within 5 to 6 years, there'll be operations manager or general managers in our small hotels. Now, coming back to profitability, I know you love data, and I want to throw this data at you. This is STR last year, not my cooked up data. In our market class, we closed at 106 hotels last year, and we were the highest occupied chain amongst all in our market class at 74%. Your STR data says India closed at 66 or 67%. Yes, we're probably a little below on ADR as compared to some of our competitors, but we are punching much above our weight on RevPAR index. And that's what really makes us a very good competition. And my aim is not about the number of hotels, but destination. Today, we operate at 77 destinations. By the time we finish this year, we'll be at 85. And by the time we finish next year, we'll be at 96 destinations. Except Taj, nobody's even close to those number of destinations right now.
Commendable. That's how you slice and dice the data.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for educating me on that. I get to the next point of rising costs, sustainable profits, and happy workers. I repeat, rising costs, sustainable profits, and happy workers. It's a businessman's all-time enigma. Shruti, you're a businessman and also hotelier. You built it, you owned it, now you're running it. How do you create this fine balance? How do you ensure this balance while implementing solutions for boosting profitability, for improving employee well-being, which also at many times it's cost? And how do you ensure career development? And you're also in certain markets which are not tier 1 cities, but these are interesting destinations and not very easy to find people. So how do you manage this balance?
So for us, so far, up till this point, we haven't controlled the entire life cycle of our hotels in a way, right? So because we build and operate, as you mentioned. So in a lot of ways, what we're able to do is push back the learning from operations into the design and development, which actually ensures that these buildings are more efficient. So a lot can be said for this, right? The design of the hotels, if they are built well, and sometimes it's not about cost. I have to be really clear about this. There are many initiatives which, for instance, somebody was talking about HVAC before, about how the HVAC component of your HLP cost is one of the largest thing on the, on your balance sheet. But there are very simple ways, like reducing the glass in your rooms, for instance, and making sure that the curtains aren't covering the glass, which reduces the heat gain in your room, thereby you're able to bring down your HVAC load for the hotel. This is a cost saving, finally, right? It is not, and it brings down your operational costs as well. So there are many learnings such as these that can be implemented during design so that your building is more efficient. There's so many like this. Going past that, when we get into operations, and you were talking about employee well-being, I think a lot of what goes into employee well-being is really treating people fairly, making sure that your policies are clear, making sure that there is acceptance of people from different communities, for instance. So we have policies around local hiring, we have policies around gender diversity, we have policies around bringing women into leadership, for instance, at this point. It's one of our goals for this year that we want more women in leadership because we know that that leads to better well-being within the entire community. We also do, we have tied up, for instance, with organizations which provide mental health support. We've seen that in the hospitality industry, young people, particularly after COVID, there's quite a lot of stress and a bit of I would say, a lack of resilience almost within the younger generation that's coming in. So we wanted to address this head on. And so we made sure that mental health, help was available to our team as well. Then there's things like technology implementations that you can do to ensure that you have better work-life balance. Like one of the simple things was, how many hours is every person working, right? And are they working unnecessarily? Is the productivity going lower after a certain point? You can look at technology implementations in such a way that you're actually able to see when people are working, how much are they working? Are they working unnecessarily? Is it leading to some sort of a productivity or not? So things like this actually help you look at this in a very holistic manner, I would say. Career development is a tricky one, to be honest, right? Because as you said, we have people from across. One of the things that we did, recently, we have a very nice career development program, of course, but we actually have also created something called the Responsible Hoteliers of Tomorrow program. This is a program where we work with universities. We get students who are going through a training program with us to understand operations fully, but also understand the way that we do operations and the way and the responsibility and the sustainability aspects of how we do operations, so that when they come into the organization eventually and hopefully, they are primed for this way of thinking, and they have sort of a clear path as to how they want to come into senior positions with that ethos of being more responsible. So these are a few sort of sprinklings of things that we do, but essentially what we do is we look at it very, very holistically.
Yeah, and technology would come naturally to you given the pedigree that you come from, isn't it? So it's easier for you to get to that model than anybody else. A little bit, yeah, that's in the blood. Okay, cool. Since we are on people, I'll just take a pit stop and also inform you that today I was reading Job Plus. Natwar, I don't know where you are, Rest, and you've done fantastic. Job Plus has done a fantastic job by tying up with Swayam Plus, which is an initiative by Government of India to skill entry-level workforce in hospitality, which will link to their employability. I know difficult words, but I think just to make it simple, so many people out there, and your target audience, you were telling me, is about 4 crore people who would get to this domain. So therefore, for properties such as Tamara and for Sarovar, where you need people in that town, at that place. Natwar, thank you very much for whatever you're doing. That's CSR. Yes, in many ways. Yeah. Yeah. So great. I move to you, Rajneesh, back to building. You see, I come from real estate background, and we are generally blamed in many places, cornered, that we are, the consumers, and we're also capitalists. So therefore we spend and we do so much damage to this earth by building and building and more building. Now, you, on the other hand of the spectrum, are also building. While we facilitate, you genuinely build, and not only hotels, but also other parts of real estate. How have you integrated in the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years? And Sanjay and I have had a few conversations around it, and you and I have had a conversation around it. But I think for the audiences to know, how is this becoming, real estate development becoming more conscious to integrate the ESG parameters into the domain? Any examples that you would like to throw?
See, for Chalet, it was easy because it's part of the K. Reja Corp, which has been into this business of real estate since, I think, more than 6 decades. And they're one of the bigger companies in India, and they are always up to speed with what is the latest in the industry of real estate. So sustainability caught up a few years back in the real estate industry. Hotel industry was also quick to adopt sustainability, call it business responsibility. Now we have ESG. Various terms have come and gone, but essentially the fundamentals remain the same. Today, even a class 1 student knows that don't cut trees. Cutting trees is not good for us, right? Even class 1 they are taught. So we as 30, 40, 50-year-old people, having worked for 10, 20, 30 years, should know that saving water, energy, how important it is, how it is generated. Still, a large chunk of electricity is generated using fossil fuels. We all know that. So if you reduce the electricity consumption, obviously the end result is less usage of fuel, etc., etc., etc. I don't have to do the math. So in our industry, in hotels, a few years back, maybe 5 to 10 years back, sustainability and using of right materials at the right locations, going local, a lot of these buzzwords came into being. And today they all are put into practice by all the leading developers and all the good hotel companies, the global companies, as well as the Indian hotel companies which operate are also up to speed with what should be done. And it's not a very difficult task when two companies with like-mindedness on a particular topic, which impacts each one of us and our families equally. You all would have read about the water crisis in Bangalore, Chennai, now in Delhi, where the state governments are fighting each other as if it was a war between two states for water. Imagine. So just to give a few examples, I'm a man of examples and less of stats. Our hotel in Whitefield, Bangalore, all our hotels have aerators and taps, which reduces the water. All of us know that. But in aerators also, there are several categories. We installed the aerators, then I went to the airports. Bangalore airport incidentally has the best-in-class aerators, which dispense the least amount of water. So that got us thinking what to do. So just last week, we changed, I think, all aerators in Bangalore hotel from a flow of 6 liters per minute to 4 liters per minute. And we were trying to measure the impact on the guests. There were no comments. But we saved, I think, 33%, if you do the math or whatever, of water in the entire hotel. And we're going to replicate this in other hotels. So these small improvisations in every large initiative that you have also goes a long way. Short flushes were not there when these hotels were built 10, 15 years back. Today, every hotel uses them by default, I guess. Same thing needs to be done about the RO. Most of the hotel ROs, all of us use RO, big plants in hotels. They all have a wastage ratio of 60% plus. If you reduce the TDS levels to most of the hotels reduce it under 100, which is not actually even good for your health. WHO recommends above 150 to 300, the TDS. If you set the RO at that, you end up saving 20 to 30% of wastage of water, which any chief engineer will say, sir, we are not throwing it, it goes to the STP. But STP water is not, you're still not making it potable, right? It's still, so there are a lot of improvisations you make. While you're making the property, there are a million things that you can do right, and there's a whole book on that. The certifications, the lead, etc. So I'm not going to go into that. So you follow that, we follow that, and all the good developers, good owners and brands would follow that. And after that, it's continuous improvement by keeping everybody engaged, right from your team to the customers. Tell them not to, throw the linen by default, change it alternate days rather than doing it every day. And many things can, most of the hotels, if you go to, sometimes they put a small cloth under your slippers. I don't know the purpose of that piece of cloth, but it does require laundering for no reason, no apparent reason. So these minor things which you mix operations with some data points, and voila, you got something which is common sense and nothing more.
Right. Ranjit, I know you also use local materials and you're getting into boutique stuff. So something that you would like to share.
I think going back to my initial point that I actually thought was, even though it might sound small, but the idea of sustainability, and I've heard a lot this evening, I think everyone spoke spot on, is to take one initiative and kind of own it and be more like a flag bearer for that and make sure that happens. And the initiatives, like Rajni said, certain things make sense, some things just don't make any sense. And why? The second point that I was actually, the one I thought was actually what I learned in Soho House. If you don't ask for a bed sheet change, they don't do it, right? Now look at our situation is the brands are too big or the hotels are too small to make huge changes that quickly. I've seen how slow it is when you have to embrace technology or sustainability in our space. Why I also said let's own one or two things that we can get done, and I took that example of the fruit basket is because, again, in Soho House and there's another hotel I went to in Japan, you can have all the fruit that you want, but it will be just one piece and be cut perfectly, and if it will be on request. Not that every 400 rooms in a hotel have a fruit basket and most of it is actually thrown. It just breaks my heart to see what the farmer has done, what the cold storage must have, the power that must have been consumed, how it has been brought to the hotel and thrown in the dustbin. Things like that is that what we really have to fight and own.
Sure. Christina, since we are on the real estate development and you've now gotten into this business and also seen success, which is very good. What should be the takeaways to real estate developers who are attempting this transformation? And I know there are a lot of them. The numbers that I just shared at the start of the session. So 31% of the investment which has come into this business in the last 1 year is from real estate development community. It's not institutional capital. It's not the private equity guys. It's the real estate developers like you who have the aspiration and have made money in other asset classes, especially residential sales, are now moving into this business. So what would be your guidance to them if they're getting into this business?
I think one thing that people need to know when getting into hospitality is building a hotel has a long gestation time, right? And I think that if you can have your, capital and you don't have to worry about interest rates, because that's something which can really add on to your stress as you, get into this industry, then and comes with a lot of patience because your returns are not immediate, right? And finally, the most important thing I think for hospitality is passion, right? Because it all sounds very glamorous, and everybody, as you said, the number of people, and especially from real estate, who are now venturing into hospitality is tremendous. But it's a lot of hard work. I'm not saying that it doesn't pay off. It does over time, but leisure is a segment that's doing really well now. People have a lot more disposable income. So I think that's where we see ourselves going into as well. That's the space we are planning to venture into after our next property, which is the Curio Collection that we are constructing now. So I think for anybody aspiring or wanting to be a hotelier, that would be my 2 cents on it. But once you get into it, it's really hard to not fall in love with it, because none of us in our family come from any hospitality background. Neither of us have studied any of it, but we seem to be, it's quite challenging, but very rewarding at the end of it.
Great. Unlike Ranveer Sahab, I don't have a story or a kissa to finish with, but I would say, put it across to the panel. Some messaging, if you would like to give, that may not be as interesting as what he said towards the end, and everyone maybe we are still struggling to finish this, but anything that you would like to tell people from ESG perspective, what they should all do, anything that you're doing, they should learn a lesson, perhaps the topmost thing in your mind?
I think a few people mentioned this before, but I think leadership really matters in this situation. I think it has to be led from the top, and it needs to be really drilled down all the way to the bottom. But the first thing that I tell most hoteliers to do is to just start measuring. Measurement. Measure anything that you think makes a difference. I mean, the obvious things are measure your consumption patterns, water, electricity, measure your waste. But beyond that, start getting into the details of the things that you can measure. And automatically, you'll start to see that as people build consciousness around that measurement, that it will automatically start to improve. And it's, I don't know, it's like a certain type of magic, but if you can start in one place, that's the place to do it.
It's a very interesting word, measurement. We have not used this word this evening yet, but it certainly has an impact. And towards ESG, I think measurement in all situations. Thank you. Jatin.
So look, I do not disagree with anything what has been spoken throughout the evening.
You don't agree?
No, I said I do not disagree. I don't disagree. Everything is perfectly fine. On the measurement part, I completely agree with you. That is there. But one thing which is really getting missed, and this is from pure play operations experience, and we as a brand are also guilty of it, is training our people. Training our people is sometime, in my opinion, is missing, because what really happens with measurement, I'll give you a very simple example. As a general manager, guest was index, Mr. Bhandari was talking about it. You go to the doorman and you say, do you know what the overall satisfaction of the hotel is? He doesn't know and he doesn't care. But if you ask him about check-in experience or arrival experience, he'll probably know that, because that is affecting him directly as getting recognized as employee of the month or star of the month or whatever. So I think training is an important part, and we're trying to get this into our management training program as a module as to how do you teach young kids, why is it important? You can put technology, you can put all the other efforts, but why is it important? We've spoken so much about change of linen and all. Not a single person in housekeeping can tell you that they're following it to the T. So that's a big example that you've got to look at training your resources properly, start from bottom to top, everybody.
Interesting, Ranjit.
If there was a message for sustainability, and I was just thinking about it, what Justin said, I would go to the human capital part of the aspect of sustainability. And I feel as a hotelier and somebody who could make a change again, would be to get the associates at the lowest level to at least afford sustainability for their lifestyle. I think 15 to 20,000 rupees, and I think somebody really put it well as a Hanuman. If I don't think that person can sustain his livelihood, and then we talk about a lot of other things, I think this is the area that I would personally love the industry to look at in a very serious way and make the change.
Interesting. Human capital. Rajneesh.
Human capital or the general GAM?
That's the word from him, human capital. Now, what's your message out?
I'll give general GAM. General GAM from my side to myself also, and to everybody else who would like to listen into it, is to recondition yourself. I think we all need to pick some cues from the middle class to which I belong, is to reuse everything. First of all, reduce your needs, reuse everything, challenge everything. Do you actually need to do it from a sustainability point of view? Do you need a towel change 3 times in a day in a hotel? You don't. Do you need the bedsheet change every day? You don't. Do you need the what do you call, rainforest shower to throw 25 liters of water per minute at you to have a decent shower? Is that luxury? I don't know. Each one of us luxury definition can differ, but we can have some common benchmarks where we all agree on what is absolutely required and what is not. So it's all about reconditioning ourselves. We take a thick duvet in hotels and then put the AC temperature at 16. Do the brands need to have that thick duvet? Rather than teaching your staff to switch off light, which hardly will save you 1 unit for the entire month, that AC will consume, that 1 degree will cost you a few hundred units for the night. So everything has to be challenged from a different perspective, which is to save this damn planet for ourselves to be in. So question everything, recondition your mind.
Wonderful.
I would like to add my bit on this. I know it says time's up on the screen, but so anyway, so I was on this topic, right? I also think that as ownership, or as Shruti said, leadership, it has to start from the top, and people should not be afraid to take that step and make a change. I say if it's good enough at home, it's good enough in the hotel. People don't realize, as Rajneesh said, you don't need to change your linen 3 times a day. You don't do it at home. I have switched to showering from a bucket now because of the situation in Bangalore, right? But I think that it is all baby steps. And we've been talking about sustainability a lot through this evening, but another initiative that we've taken is biogas conversion, right? Which we convert and use at our staff cafeteria. The other thing that a lot of hotels, in my opinion, don't have is an ETP. Even our laundry water is getting recycled and reused. So, and all our cars now are all electric, right? So I also think the word green is being very loosely used. Everybody claims that they're a green building. So, and even sustainability is sort of, not having its impact because people keep throwing it around every day, and they call every hotel as a boutique hotel. It's one of those words, right? That's being used time and time again. But I think you need to put your money where your mouth is. And it's about starting, and it's about how much you are doing. So a lot of people have gotten into sustainability to an extent, which, of course, I'm not even getting into LED lights or, aerators and things like that. But there's so much beyond that. And I think educating people, like I was having conversation with Mr. Bakaya, And I said, what if we were to put a water meter in each room? And I know it sounds so crazy, but my dad said, of course not. And my CEO is glaring at me right now, but he's like, no, who's going to care about it? But you know, you don't realize how much water you use. You'll at least see that number and then know. I know it's, but then I think all these things are just baby steps, and that's what I think is extremely important, and not to be afraid and just get into it in any way possible.
Great. So I'll start with Christina. She said, patience, leadership, and think radical. Ladies and gentlemen, take these messages that I'm going to just tell you, these words along with you out when you go for a drink. And I know we all thirsty. We must go quickly. So the words that you should take along with you from Christina, it is patience, leadership, but think radical. Shruti said measurement, something that I have learned tonight, measurement. Jatin insists on training and people, very, very important. Ranjit said, again, similar, but in a different context, human capital. How do you sustain them so that they can sustain you and your business? Very thoughtful. And Rajneesh, absolute wisdom, reuse and challenge yourself. Middle class roots help all of us. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being a fantastic audience, very patient and persistent. And thank you, Vibhor, for not, you see what I paid the guy? He didn't ring the bell. Me? No, it's about them. My no, I'm learning. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaydeep, and thank you all the panelists. It was indeed a very, very insightful panel discussion. Moving on to next and the last segment of our GM Summit. It's, ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to a very special part of the evening, the much anticipated Hotelier India ESG Excellence Awards 2024 for the Southern region. These awards celebrate outstanding contributions to environmental, social, governance practices in our industry. Tonight, we honor and recognize the remarkable achievements of our winners who have set new standards in ESG excellence. Before we proceed, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all our esteemed jury members for the dedication and hard work. Their invaluable efforts have made this evening a resounding success. Moving on, the most innovative ESG practice award, and let me tell you, it's a very special award. For outstanding contribution towards responsible hospitality, the most innovative ESG practice. Please join me in welcoming our jury members, Ambika Gautam, Abhijit Zakaria, and Niranjan Khatri. And along with that, may I invite Mr. Natwar Nagar, founder and CEO, the People Network, to present the award to. Can we have everybody on stage, please? I can't see Natwar. Natwar, may we have you on the stage? Come on. We all are waiting for you. And the award goes to the Coconut Lagoon, a CG at Earth Experience Hotel. Please give them a huge round of applause. Where is the team? Wow, I love that attire. Congratulations to the team for going above and beyond in their commitment to ESG initiatives. Let's move on to the category awards. The official ESG Excellence Award categories, Excellence in Corporate Governance Hotel of the Year. First up, we have the Excellence in Corporate Governance Hotel of the Year Award. Presenting this prestigious awards are Mr. Ranjit Batra, President Hospitality Management, Panchsheel Reality. Anshul Gupta, Quick Clean. Shruti Shibulal, Director and CEO of Tamara Leisure Experiences, to announce the nominees and winners. And may we have the AV for the nominees of Excellence in Corporate Governance Hotel of the Year Award in luxury to upper luxury segment are on the screen. Lovely. And the winner is Hilton and Hilton Garden in Bangalore Embassy Manyata Business Park. Congratulations, Team Hilton. Moving on to the next category, the Social Responsible Hotel of the Year Award, recognizing outstanding social responsibility initiative within the hotels. Please welcome Ms. Christina Roche, Director Roche Lifescapes, Mr. Bobby Joseph, LWT India and Subcon, and Mr. Vibhor Srivastav, MD Events ITP India, to present the award. May we have the nominees on the screen, please? And we are thrilled to announce the winner, Aloft Bangalore Outer Ring Road. Please give them a huge round of applause, guys.
Let's hear for the lady, and I have watched from close quarter the kind of incredible body of work that she's done. She changed the name of the hotel and the address. So let's hear from the lady herself. Yeah, don't be conservative.
Thank you so much, Mr. Srivastava. It's such a pleasure to be here on stage and receive this award. Thanks to my team who's sitting on that second table over there. So cheers to the team, first of all. And thank you, absolutely right. You said the right thing. We changed the name of the hotel in October 2022. That was about 8-9 months after I joined the hotel, because I and the ownership equally, along with Marriott International, thought that it made geographical sense to put a larger geographical area to the hotel name. We used to be known as the Aloft Bangalore Cessna Business Park because we are inside a tech park, and now we are called the Aloft Bangalore Outer Ring Road. Very, very grateful to be here and to receive this award. Thank you so much. What an insightful evening it was. And thank you to all the panel members and to you, Mr. Srivastava. Thank you.
Much power, more sunshine.
May I request Bobby and Vibhu to stay back, please? May I also invite Mr. Jatin Khanna, CEO Sarovar Hotels, on stage to join the presenters? Let's turn our attention to the nominees for Socially Responsible Hotel of the Year in the luxury to upper upscale segment. Please turn your eyes to the screen to see the nominees. Can we hear it for the nominees as well? Y'all will get hydrated in some time. Any guesses? Are we having any guesses here? All right. The winner for the upper scale segment is JW Marriott Hotel Bangalore. Where is the team? Gaurav, can we see? Oh yeah, you're there. Congratulations, Gaurav and team. Well deserved. Our final category to the evening is the prestigious Sustainable and Environment Conscious Hotel of the Year award. Step down. To present this award, please welcome Mr. Ranveer Bhandari, President Hospitality Lodha Ventures, Mr. Anshul Gupta and Vinodni Rao, Editor Hotelier India. Can we have the nominees, please? Once again, huge round of applause for all the nominees. They also worked really hard. And the winner in this category is Grand Kakinda by GRT Hotels. Thank you, team, and my apologies is Grand Kakinada by GRT Hotels. Sorry about that. To present the next award, we invite Mr. Jaideep Dang, Mr. Syed Ishtaq from Howell, India, and Rahul Sequeira, MD ITP India. Can we have the nominees on this segment, please? Which is your upscale to mid-sale segment. Yes, huge round of applause for all the nominees. And we are very excited to announce the winner of the Sustainability and Environment Conscious Hotel of the Year award in the upscale to mid-scale segment as Radisson Blu Bangalore Outer Ring Road. Please give a huge round of applause for Radisson. Congratulations, Christina and her team. And may I request Rahul and Sayedji to stay back? May I also invite Mr. Rajneesh Malhotra, CEO of Chalet Hotels, to come on stage to join the presenters. Finally, the nominees for Sustainable and Environmental Conscious Hotel of the Year in the Luxury to Upper Scale segment are displayed on your screen. And let's hear for them. Give them a huge round of applause. The winner and the last award of the evening goes to Spice Village, Kerala. A huge round of applause for all the winners this evening. Your dedication to ESG practices is truly inspiring. As we conclude this remarkable evening, let's welcome Vinodni Rao, Editor, Hotelier India, to deliver the closing remarks and express our gratitude to everyone involved. Vinodni, may I have you on the stage, please?
Thank you, Sheetal. Doing such a great job. What a splendid evening this has been of victories and wonderful conversations. Thank you, Bangalore, for showing up in such great numbers and making this day so special and memorable. I know this has been a long evening, so I'll make it really quick. Hotelier India started the GM Summit a few years ago, and I can proudly say that we are going from strength to strength in celebrating the GMs of the industry, and of course, bringing the fraternity together to ideate, to brainstorm, and to shape the future of the industry. Accompanying the GM Summit is a newly launched baby, the brainchild of Vibhor. And of course, with huge support from Natwar and Ambika of the People Network, this has been a great contribution towards recognizing the ESG efforts of the industry and of the leaders in making the world a better place for all of us to live in. On that note, a huge thanks to each and every member of the jury, the panel, and the moderators for taking the time out and gracing our event. And big thanks to our sponsors and partners as well for making the event shine. And last but not the least, all those working silently behind the scenes, Team Hotelier India, Shalu, Girish, Johnson, Amrita, Sheetal, all of y'all for really working hard. And we look forward to the next edition in Delhi with, of course, all your support and love. And please join us. Yeah. Please join us for some delectable food that has been specially whipped up by the chefs of JW Marriott, and for some great cocktails as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rahul, for being there. Thank you, Bibor, for leading all the IDP events so well. Thank you so much.
With that note, I invite you to all continue the conversations over cocktails and dinner. Enjoy the evening, and thank you once again for being here. This is Sheetal signing off. Good night.